It's dark outside, and that means it's the witching hour for all the vampires and the vampirettes, and they're gathered around the internet fire. They're gathered around the Twitch machine for Jan Carpenter's in the month of madness, asking a question they ask each other each and every week, and that question is, hey, did you see this one?
That was good.
The year is 2024, and two friends once again invite you to join them in revisiting, or discovering for the first time, the masterworks of a filmmaker who transcends genre, whose horrors have lurked in the dark, broken free from the ice, crawled straight from hell, or even pulled themselves from the very pits of a mad mind, who showed us the hidden corners of Chinatown, sent a man from the stars, and dragged us to New York, LA, and even Mars. Nearly unmatched as a genre filmmaker. Once again, Hey, Did You See This One? Invites you to look upon the works of a genius. We present to you Jan Carpenter's In the Month of Madness.
That's right, we're back with a brand new episode of Hey, Did You See This One? We are here. It is Jan Carpenter's in the month of madness. It is our final week of that month, and we are covering John Carpenter's Vampires. I don't know if you're allowed to just call it Vampires, but every time I write out Vampires, it seems wrong, so you have to call it John Carpenter's Vampires.
Yeah.
We are once again joined.
He owns these ones.
Impossible to find almost if you don't call it that. On any streaming service,
you're just
or
Googling vampires at that point.
Yeah, or if you're sailing the seven seas, impossible, because there's 1 million pornos called Vampires apparently.
Say more. Anyway,
I tried to find it, and I saw a lot of hardcore pornography, and was like, "This isn't John Carpenter.
We're supposed to watch this.
This is Jan Carpenter's."
We're supposed to watch this on Pornhub. I'd like to welcome back to the show Scott Dickie. Thank you for coming back to our show.
It's been a brief moment since Scott has been in the annals of this show. Do we call it annals? Or anals?
In the annals.
I don't know.
It's an honor. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. I don't know if you've been here for the new format. It's basically the same. But there are only 3 of us. That being said, before we get into it, we have a little game I play each and every week online on Monday and Tuesday. It's
a super perverted game, and we all are like, "What's wrong with this?"
And I show everything.
Yeah,
I show parts of.
It's a very zoomed in picture of Jason's dick.
Yeah, it's just a pink square, really.
You got to figure out where it goes.
But then it zooms out and you realize it's a picture of the poster for Vampires. And you're like, oh, it's not Jason's dick at all.
That's right. So this is the we call it the fan guessing game. This is the fan guessing game.
Or a fang guessing game.
Congratulations! You have successfully guessed the correct answer, which is the answer you provided.
Congratulations! That's right. So as Steve was saying, I put in a zoomed in picture of my wiener and zoomed out to reveal the poster for vampires slowly every day. But this time,
every day.
for months. It took that long. But as you can see the poster behind me, all I had to do this week was show the red part where it shows a vampire. And I actually had to close the game because so many people got it immediately. So I have 6 people.
I wonder if it could be because there's only one movie that John Carpenter made that has a vampire in it.
You have a leg up if you know the theme of the month also, which a couple of the people did. But we have some olds and some news, so let's get into it. First and foremost, Craig Webster, friend of the show, former guest of the show, he got it right. He said he wanted to say, I give everybody the opportunity to do a plug or a message to the world. He wanted to plug, he is a DJ. He wanted to say, as I'm sure most of your listeners are unaware, I've been DJing in Toronto for about 14 years, but I've decided to hang up the headphones and call it quits, at least for the foreseeable future. I'm having a retirement party at Swan Dive, 1631 Dundas Street West on Saturday, March 30th from 10 to 2:30. That's 10 p.m. to 2:30 a.m., and it's free admission. Great tunes, friendly folks, everyone come. He spins like 80s and 90s.
I mean, I don't want to alarm anybody, but that sounds like a vampire invitation to me.
It's at night.
This guy is a vampire, and
anybody can come. Everyone's going to be having a good time here at the
Make sure you wash your neck before you get there.
No dirty necks.
No dirty necks.
Also, friend of the show, Jimmy Vandelay, got it again this week. And he wanted to, first of all, I want to shout out his Instagram, Jimmy Sketches, where he does great art. And he wanted to say, what I do is I just try to take my hat and turn it around. And it's like a switch that goes on. And when the switch goes on, I feel like another person. I feel like a truck, like a machine. Do you guys know what that's from? That's from a movie.
Yeah.
And it's a movie.
I feel like I do know what that's
from. John Carpenter's Vampires.
It's a movie that I want to do on this very show. That is Link. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you already said the first letter, and I know I'm wrong. So go ahead.
It's Lincoln Hawk from Over the Top.
Oh,
which is
I thought you were gonna say it's Maximum Overdrive, directed by Stephen King? Record scratch, and he slips on ice while he's directing it somehow.
Friend of the show, former guest of the show, Arjun Trivedi, who you know very well. He got
Starship Troopers.
He got it right. Starship Troopers was his episode. It was a very good episode. Go back and watch that. I've actually been plastering the internet with shorts from it. So.
Scott, you've met Arjun, and you guys got along royally one time at the Stormcrow Flophouse or whatever we called it.
Oh man, I blanked out every single memory I had.
It's okay. Me too.
Did they bite each other's necks?
He's my friend. But no, I think I probably told you like a million times that he's a doctor. I'm like, he's a doctor because when he shows up, he doesn't act like a doctor. He's like a weird normal person. I'm like, but just remember that he's really smart and he's a doctor. So don't judge.
He's the only doctor
on
who didn't
weird
act
things
like
that he says
in public. Yeah.
It was very interesting to have a doctor on for Starship Troopers because he would often be like, as a doctor. And I'm like, very good, very good.
I think he's the only doctor that's been on this show besides me. I'm a doctor of stupidity.
Matt Philp is also a doctor.
Oh yes, right. He's a doctor of teaching, right, or something.
Business. He's a business doctor. He says, "I got my MD in business."
When he gets to the office, does he say, "The doctor has come to operate"?
Yeah, and then he cuts open a check of money, I guess.
Arjun wanted to say, confidence is the food of the wise man, but the liquor of the fool.
Whoa, is that like the Dalai Lama or something?
Some sort of ancient proverb. I wanted to actually sing that like Nickelback. Confidence is the food of the wise man, but the liquor of the fool. That was stupid. I hated it. Noel, friend of the show, former guest of the show, Showgirls, and Last Action Hero. They'll be back on a lot. They'll be back here all the time.
They'll be on a lot, and also they're not a showgirl. It sounded like you were saying they were a showgirl. They were on for Showgirls
For
the episode.
Showgirls the film.
Yeah.
It made me question about doing Fansumber anymore because everybody chose movies I wanted to strangle.
No, it was a good month. I liked it. It was great.
I'm just being a goose.
It was just Cass that picked that horrible horror movie
Stay
that we
Alive.
both were like, oh, God damn.
I have to have a talk with her.
But also, I kind of am glad that we did it because it was a weird one that I never would have watched again if it wasn't for Cass.
It's true, and I will
making us
never
do
watch it again. Noel wanted to say, check out the Showgirls episode with your old pal Noel and their podcast, Stick Taps and Stitches, a hockey podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Steven helped out with some of the rad sound bites. He is so talented. And also, Jason is a real beaut. So I got the shaft there, but, listen to Steve's sound bites.
Well, I mean, maybe... stick your hand out for a helping hand once in a while and you'll get a better shout out, brother. You have to have an excellent voice like this. Oh, it's me, the Sticky podcast. What'd you say, sir?
Is that the podcast where they just eat a hockey puck?
Yeah.
Yeah, they spend 2 hours devouring a hockey puck.
Everyone
doing it.
And it's been going for 20 years.
They're almost done.
Friend of mine who I actually hadn't talked to in probably 10 years, I worked with a long time ago, and we sort of went separate ways. We're going to get together and have a drink soon. Christian Canis. He wanted to promote his new Twitch channel, The Pie Society. THEPIE Society. Look out for him playing some vids. Speaking of, the Josh and Polly show got it. I think it was Josh from the show. Sorry if you're watching. I think he's going to watch the show later, but tell him the Josh and Polly show sent you, and they definitely shouldn't bother to check out our podcast, or else. I think that's a little the old, reverse psychology. And that is our correct guesses for the week. How does that sound? Thank you for everybody who checked us out. It's a brilliant flow for me to get clicks. It's great. It works. Also, speaking of, I just want to give everybody the call to action for this week. Go out, like one of our videos, subscribe to us on all social media. It helps us a lot. I got to shill our podcast, or else they're going to think that I don't.
The robots are putting us on TikTok now.
Yeah, the robots.
None of the videos make any sense. They
Nope.
start in the middle of a thought. They don't end on any kind of coherent thought at all. It's great.
I fed our podcast into an AI robot, and they shit out just content. So look at it and like it. You can
some of them are good. Every once in a while, I'm like, this is a good one. Yeah.
And I put some effort into a couple of them. That like your.
Well, that was a lot of me giving you notes.
And we are caught up fully. You can find every episode in audio format. I'm now caught up putting YouTube episodes up every Friday. I put a classic episode up every Wednesday. And Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, I try to put shorts and reels and all that good stuff up. So go find it everywhere. It's everywhere. Consume it. Hey, did you see this one? Is the name of the podcast, if you don't know. Also, a shout out to White Bat Audio on YouTube, who... I'm not going to say lent us because he's we don't know him, but he creates a lot of content that's DCMA free for podcast creators and YouTubers to use free of charge, so we can have great music for our shows. He just happens to do a lot of John Carpenter sounding music, so it works out great for January. So shout out to him. Thank you. And with that, I think we can get into our... We can just get into our brief.
We can do another formal welcome to our guests. Thank you so much for coming.
That's right. Also, welcome, Scott. With that said, that was the sting for a brief history. Around here, it's a time-honored tradition to give our guests the first opportunity to give their brief history. So, Scott, you were telling us a little. You have to say it all over again. Tell us about your brief history with this film.
Okay, so the first time I watched this movie, and going back and watching it, I realized what an inappropriate thing to do. But my mom was giving birth to my baby brother at the time, and my dad, great dad in a lot of ways. But I think when he was just like, "Hey, Bob, watch the kids," he was just kind of like, "I don't know what I'm doing." So he went to Blockbuster and he got this movie on VHS. And we went home and we got a bucket of KFC chicken and we watched it. And for a 9-year-old, there's just tits and gore and so much homophobia, and it just washed over me, just like the KFC did. It was absolutely beautiful, and I had really fond memories of this. Like, I actually was like, what a beautiful bonding moment with my dad.
With my daddy, yeah.
And then,
while my mom is
back...
giving birth in the hospital.
Yeah, and why wasn't he there?
I'm wondering, like, yeah, why wasn't your dad there? And also, what was his thought process? Kids like vampires and chicken.
Kids like vampires. He guaranteed like didn't even look at the movie. Like, it's
no, he didn't look at the
rated R as a pirate.
You didn't see that James Woods was in it. It's like,
maybe my dad loves James Woods. Maybe he was like finally
maybe that's
a
why
real rugged leading man.
Yeah,
it's the role he's deserved.
He saw John Carpenter. He's like, ugh, are we gonna get another Kurt Russell romp? And he's like, oh, James Woods.
Finally.
Yeah.
Also, finally. it's like John was like, hey, James Woods, I need you to be Kurt Russell in this movie. if you don't mind. I couldn't get him. Yeah.
And James Woods was like, yeah, I can do that.
I've
seen your other movies, and I can definitely do that for you.
But in some kind of like crazy weird way, this movie just like actually kept me on a vampire kick my whole life, where I was like, no, I need like hard vampire action. No, like,
well, yeah, it gives you sort of like an idea of like pre-Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like what the rules of vampires are, and like what you imagine them to be, and what you can do to take out a vampire, and like strategic thinking.
Yeah,
which,
like a bit of realism to it too.
Even watching it this week, I was like, you know what? The strategies in this pretty good. Like, they harpoon zombies and drag them out of their dens in the middle of the day.
On a Jeep, and they're just like, you're fucking done, buddy. Yeah, I love it.
They flank and they just start pulling boards off the make sure all the windows are open. Like, we don't want to. It's like a D&D campaign almost, where it's like, what would you do when you go into a vampire den?
Oh, 100%.
Make sure there's as much light in the room as you can.
And you got Shang Tsung wearing ski goggles in like the opening frame, and then he just like dies right away.
Immediately, yeah.
Cool. Is that your whole history?
Yeah, that's the whole history.
It's a pretty good history.
That one time with the chicken, yeah.
His brother was being birthed into the world, and his dad was like, "Here's some chicken
and prostitute breasts.
Vampires.
Have some breasts with your breasts, son."
Like, I'm surprised my dad didn't feed me a beer. Like, he's like, drink up.
One time my dad, when I was like
9,
13, my dad was like, come to the shop, son. We're going to have KFC and you're allowed to drink beer. And I did. And I immediately got a walking hangover because I was 13 and puked everywhere. We had to go Christmas shopping and I threw up everywhere. Anyway, Steve, what's your brief history?
Well, I watched this movie by myself. No cool story about my dad getting chicken in the movie, or my dad making me barf when I was 13 for drinking beer. I watched this maybe a little bit too late, but the first time I watched it, I did appreciate the same stuff that I said when you were talking, Scott, where it's like, it gives you a set of rules that you didn't really consider. It's not just like kicking them and punching them and then hitting them in the heart with a stake. It's a strategy. You can go to their den in the daytime, and like, they primarily fight in the day, which is cool. And then they go and party at nighttime, and they're like, we fucked them up so hard that they wouldn't dare come fuck with us right now. We just killed like 80 of them. Yeah. And I mean, that's the whole conceit of the movie, but it's cool. It's very cool up until a specific moment in the movie when it becomes no longer cool. And then later it gets cool again. And then it quickly becomes uncool again after that. Like, oh, geez. This movie has its cool moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, my brief history is that I watched it, I think, with Danny for the first time, which would have been not even that long ago. Like, I've seen so many of his movies. I probably saw bits and pieces when I was a kid. And even when I was talking to you, Jason, I was like, wait a minute, there's a Baldwin in this? Like, I forgot there was a Baldwin. And then I was like, I think I have seen this movie, but I was not thinking of this movie. I was thinking of like one of the 4 sequels of From Dusk Till Dawn that also has a Baldwin in it. So my brief history is that I didn't really see it.
It's pretty much the same for me. I remember bits and pieces of it. I remember seeing the cover of the film at like Blockbuster in the late 90s. I remember being like, I'll never watch a John Carpenter movie. They're too spooky. This movie is a ham-fisted action horror, so it's not really like, there's nothing to really be afraid of.
I mean, we've talked about it before, but I think his only really scary movie is The Thing. Like,
Yeah.
the rest of his movies are not that. I mean, Halloween, debatable, but you know, if
for
you
the
saw it too
era,
late,
definitely, but
yeah.
like now.
But The Thing is the only one that still kind of freaks me out to this day.
Well, speaking of, let's continue that thought as we go into director talk.
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of Sound. Speed. Action!
This is Director Talk. We have covered John Carpenter for the last 3 weeks pretty in depth. So what I've sort of moved this towards is talking about elements of this film directorially. And I guess, Steve, you were kind of talking about movies that are actually scary by John Carpenter. And you're right. I think The Thing, which we'll probably cover next year, is like it's suspenseful. It's got legit suspense, it's got legit horror, it's got legit mystery, and a lot of John Carpenter's works outside of that are very like you made like an easily palatable like action thing. Like look at a movie like They Live, you know, like that's not it's like it just like
but that's a movie
sci-fi.
that I would put on once a year when I have like a flu or something. I'll put on They Live while I'm sick for sure. That's a feel good movie. So is Starman. So is Big Trouble in Little China. Like he has so many feel good movies that aren't too hard to digest while you're not feeling good. They make you feel better.
People who I talk to about this specific movie remember it fondly a lot of the time and do kind of see it that way. And, well, Scott has a great memory from it, so you probably would be more inclined to throw it on, even though you watched it and were like, probably good. I think it's based on when you saw it. Like, I saw Big Trouble last year and wondered why it wasn't part of my childhood, and it would be a movie that I throw on. This one I'll probably not watch again, you know?
I mean, it's not terrible though. There's
that's the thing.
Moments.
Yeah, it's like well shot. It looks good. It looks like a '90s movie. It looks a little ahead of its time, like John Carpenter's.
It's not though. It looks behind its time. That's the crazy part.
You think?
Yeah, it's 1998, man. This is like the end of the '90s, and it looks like an '80s movie. Like it doesn't have that sort of like gloss that Scream or like The Bride of Chucky.
That's a good point.
All that kind of stuff starts to be glamorous and sleek and shiny, and the writing pops, and it's you know, it's different. This is very much not different. It's kind of like the same code, the Carpenter code, if you could call it that.
I had to take a moment when I was watching this movie and look up, and I was like, when did Blade come out? And I was like, oh my god, like these are like
before this.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my god,
they came out the same weekend.
Is this when did Blade come out?
I think 99.
Okay. Yeah, I guess when you put those up, because Blade was like the prototype superhero movie that sort of made it okay to make those niche superhero movies, and the X-Men took a lot from the Blade movies, I thought, in presenting a superhero. This one, like, actually, now that I think about it, you're right. This is very 80s. It feels like Dennis Leary should have been the lead, or Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
James Woods, absolutely the wrong choice. We'll get into that. We'll get into that when we get into
even James Woods himself would admit, like, I don't know why I was in this. I was doing voiceover for The Simpsons that year, and they said, hey, do you want to be on Family Guy? And I said, okay.
Yeah,
and
like,
then someone said, do you want to be in a
candy.
Carpenter movie? And I did it.
Do you have any trivia or facts about like the making of this? I don't know if you guys did it that deep of a
he
dive.
didn't bring back his beautiful Dean Cundy, the best cinematographer that basically took Carpenter vision and was able to apply it to every scenario, right? Like John Carpenter is very good at setting up a shot for an action sequence, like those moments where they're getting dragged out of the house, or where it's a long shot of people walking up to each other. Like John Carpenter has that sort of brain, but when it comes down to just two people talking, it's boring. And like there's so many good lines in this movie that feel like they trip over themselves because of the fact that the camera's not working in favor of the line delivery. There's I wrote a couple of them down. There's what does he say? Did I write them down? Yeah, I did.
There's one near the end where he straight up pulls a Liam Neeson and he's like, "Wherever you go, I will hunt you. I will find you, and I will kill you."
But it's just like
cheese.
Yeah, but it looks like they shot it from far away at the side. Like they didn't get down and like frame the face, and like they should almost be kissing, but they, like it shouldn't be romantic, but it should feel brotherly, like it should feel like they have a connection.
It should feel like a threat and a promise, and it does.
Exactly. It should feel like 10 different things
to the wind,
but it feels like nothing. Yeah. Even the like, where was the master? Like after they kill the den, it's like they're all surrounding a car, and it's just like someone's just there shooting these guys, being like, "But where was the master?" And it's like, I don't know, where was the master? But it's like they could have had this like nice smooth camera come up on James Woods, and he would say like, "But where was the master?" And then like have like a musical John Carpenter like ding, 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 ding. Like give it some of that Carpenter jazz. It's not there, man. It's lacking in a lot of Carpenter.
Something interesting about the music
tropes.
Though, if you watch the whole credits, you find out that the music was done by John Carpenter's like actual band called the Toad Lickers, and that's the one thing we'll talk about that throughout, and it's part of my final
the
thought.
Thing is, the music isn't bad. It's just not. When it's good, but it's not doing its job everywhere.
I loved. You're right. You're absolutely right. It doesn't have. It's not like last week where there was one musical theme, and you knew. You know what I mean?
Which was like anytime the perverts are on screen, it's one single note. Like,
but that's effective. I really liked the weird saloon, like biker slide guitar rock in this. I thought
I know we're right at the beginning of this, but like I will say Dean Cundey is the one thing that's missing, because Dean Cundey is an amazing cinematographer. He works for Spielberg, he works for Carpenter, he works for many of the greats, but he's like a guy that gets around and he's like friends with everybody. Not on this movie. The other thing that I was gonna say is James Woods, bad choice, yes, but who would have weirdly been a good choice, and this is like almost like a James Woods insert, like if you can't get James Woods, get this guy, but I think that he would probably be better than James Woods, is the guy who plays Q in Next Gen. Imagine that guy.
Yeah, the Canadian guy. What the fuck is that guy's name?
The guy who plays Q. He's Q.
Yeah.
We all know Q.
We all know Q
from Next Generation. He's like basically James Woods, but he can enunciate better.
He's like James Woods slowed down.
John Delancey,
or like
John Delancey,
just normal paced, like a normal speed. John Delancey,
yeah. He has an amazing career. Canadian, good guy.
Yeah, he's funny, and he's taller. He probably would look better in those jeans.
I thought, like I was saying, I thought Dennis Leary. I thought that they were trying to do Dennis Leary. They were like, just do a Dennis Leary impression.
No, I think Scott's right. They were trying to do Jack Burton
or Jack Burton.
Yeah, this was basically a Jack Burton adventure, but Jack Burton couldn't show up, so they got his buddy Jack Berto. I don't know what his last name is.
Jack Glass?
Yeah.
Or something?
Is his name Jack Glass?
There was one goofy shot when the three of them are like ready to walk into, I think, the second or third house. And it just cuts with them like they're standing still, and then they start walking. It really felt like they were like,
his name's Jack Crow.
Jack Crow. Ugh. It really felt like they were like, and action, and they didn't cut like the 3 seconds, So there even for John Carpenter, there were some inconsistencies. This movie has that thing that Snake Plissken likes to do in the escape movies, where it's just people like walking around, which I think is just like a time filler or something, or John Carpenter just likes showing people like it's looking around.
This is my theory, is that John Carpenter gets fed up with the shoot, and he's just like, we're done for the day.
Yeah.
And then when he's editing, he's like, fuck, we didn't get enough footage. Who the hell said that we were done for the day? It's like, you did, John. He's John. Like, shit. I just wanted to go play my synthesizer in the van and smoke weed and play NBA for the Super Nintendo.
I have a theory that he was playing Super Nintendo or PlayStation 1 like RPGs at this time. If
this was 1997, he was playing Star Fox 64.
Fox.
There was some shots where they like gear up and they have the priests behind them all geared up, and it felt like an RPG party going into battle. And I was like, was he playing Final Fantasy VII at this time or something?
All right. I hate to put a break on the van full of Nintendo 64s in the back where, John Carpenter and James Woods play Star Fox together trying to figure out how to get Slippy off that lava planet. But we got to move on to the body.
You want to go to the body episode? Also, hello, Tim. Hello, welcome. This here is the main part of the show. It's the body of the episode.
Ho, 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 ho! Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
That's right, this is the body of the episode. This is essentially the main part of the podcast, where we're going to run down the plot. We're going to run down what we liked. We're going to run down what we hated. And we're going to talk pretty much just about the movie. So I just wanted to start off by saying it turns out there are 2 sequels to this. Most notably, the direct sequel, part 2, has Bon Jovi as the lead, which is it's supposed to be the same character.
Yeah, it's called Vampovey. Vampovey 2.
John Bon Jovi.
This time, John Bon Jovi's not in it, but he's a vampire. He's a corpse.
The first note I have is, all right, what is this?
Yep, fair. That's what I thought too when I was watching it.
They introduce us to James Woods and fucking Daniel Baldwin, and we get credits over a desert sprawl.
I have a question to ask both of you.
Okay.
When you saw Daniel Baldwin, did you be like, "Oh, it's fuck, what Baldwin is that?"
Yes.
Did you guys see
that? It's a Baldwin.
It's one of the Baldwins. I know it.
He's got the cocaine sweat, and it's like dripping down his face right away. You just know it's one of them.
He looks the iconic
like
dyed
Alec Baldwin
black.
Now.
Yeah.
Like modern day Alec Baldwin in 1990.
Weirdly big. He's so big, and he's not a great. I was thinking about this the whole time. I'm going. So there's Billy Baldwin, Daniel, Steven, and Alec. None of them reach the levels of Alec, but they all essentially have the same acting style. But for some reason, Alec Baldwin can act, and the rest of them are like
he's handsomer.
Wait, is Adam Baldwin an actor?
Is it? I thought. Oh, is there another Baldwin that I forgot?
Yeah,
guys,
there's Adam.
I've been hiding this from you guys for years, but I am Adam Baldwin. My name is Adam Baldwin.
I'm Jason Baldwin. I have no relation.
No relation. Is Adam Baldwin real? I don't know. I don't fucking know.
My first note was they stopped for so long to check their map and be like, first they just take an instant cheap shot at New Mexico. They're like, New Mexico is a shithole.
Yeah.
But when they get to the first house, all the guys pile out of the fucking makeshift ambulance, and they were all just sitting in there sweating their asses off. All these 2 guys were like, "Where are we? Where are we?"
Oh, hello.
Don't get out. You're not allowed out.
Don't get out of the van.
You have to stay back there. Adam Baldwin is my favorite.
Hello, Luna Divinare. I think I'm saying that right. It's Cass, friend of the show, former guest of the show, constant guest of the show. We were talking about Stay Alive. Don't rewind. That said, they are hanging out. They're scoping out a vampire's nest.
But it is always funny when there's that kind of revelation in a movie where it's it's not like Men in Black where they're hiding. It's no, they were just in there and they didn't let them out. It's no, guys, stay in. We're going to keep moving in a couple of moments, but we are going to take maybe 5-10 minutes to look at the map. And you guys just stay in the van. It's it's hot back here, man.
We're sitting
out. There's 10 of them back there.
They're all breathing each other's air. Ugh.
It's weirdly it's the Ghostbusters, but they've somehow had too many Ghostbusters. That's the vibe I got from them putting together a crew both times. It was they all have very distinct personalities.
Yeah.
The one guy from the first crew is from Sons of Anarchy, and I like that actor. I think he's also in Batman Begins or Batman, whatever. Whenever he's swear to me, I think he's that guy too.
Yeah, he's what? You don't like falafel? You don't like falafel or what?
Yeah, they have a great hunter crew.
He's got a great career as shitty guy.
The guy.
That's what his name is in every credit. You're
His
a shitty
hair's
guy.
never changed, not in 30 years.
He's got that same hair. He just looks slightly younger at this
Well,
point.
I mean, to be fair, Batman Begins came out like 3 years after this.
2003.
Yeah. It just looks a lot better.
Yes, because Christopher Nolan made a masterpiece that like very few people saw.
Well, because Christopher Nolan knows how to shoot a movie, and John Carpenter knows how to get Dean County to shoot a movie, and they forgot to hire him.
This is the point where I realized that James Wood is not an action man, and
this is the point.
Well,
not his entire career of never being in an action
also
movie.
That, but I was like, I'll give him a chance until he just starts wisecracking. There is one tick that he does that I do like, though. Whenever he goes in to like scope a place out with a gun, he always checks the ceiling. Did you guys notice that? He always goes. I thought that was a nice touch.
He probably got attacked from the ceiling one time.
That's exactly where my head went.
Yeah.
I really appreciate all the ways that they like took their time to be like, James Woods is tough as nails in this one. You haven't seen him like before. Like when they go to like unlock the little latch on the front of the house filled with vampires, then the guy uses the Jordan air pump of door openers. Yeah. And they go in and he's like, all right, boss, I'll stick my hand there and latch it. And he goes, no, it's my turn.
It's my turn. Yeah. And you're like, does he say that every time? Or is it literally just his turn? Yeah. I did like that as well because it establishes that there's like a pecking order and they're all involved, even the leader. But again, we don't know if he just says that every single time. Like, oh, it's my turn.
And as you can
like,
see,
he just wants his hand to get ripped off by a zombie at some point so he can have a cool hook.
As you can
they call me Hook now. Hook Crow.
Hook Crow.
As you can see in Steven's picture behind him, they have a comical amount of ridiculous weapons that all look like they were put together by like some person who is like in the
they look that they were put together by these guys.
Exactly. Yes,
these people.
But they also look like they were put together by somebody having fun in props. Just like, what if it had like 3 real flashlights on it, or a flood lamp, or what if James Wood? Look at James Wood's fucking face. He looks so ridiculous.
His custom crossbow is so sleek for no reason because everybody else looks like their gear's kind of like makeshift, but he's like, mine is like one piece of like Nerf grade plastic.
Or it's like pure silver. Like he's like, every time I kill a vampire, I melt it down into a piece of this crossbow and I add it.
He's the only guy with a crossbow in the whole movie, and it's like that's a good vampire killing tool.
They should all have crossbows with stakes on them, right?
There's like a part of me that thinks like maybe he was a priest at some point, like that's why he's like feels so comfortable with the priest, and he like has this sort of like back and forth with them. It's like I could picture him having lost his way, but like that's the thing about this movie is that you don't know anything, right? And you don't really know anything about anybody. Nobody gives you
until you get an exposition dump.
Really. Yeah, but it's not even like it really isn't even that much. Like it's enough to get you through, but it's not enough to know everything about the character.
Yeah, like his shorthand tick that he has too is that he always calls the priests that come with him Padre, which I thought was kind of fun. But
because like every fucking Western movie ever does that, so it's
Padre.
It's kind of like okay.
This is I don't know if it's jumping ahead, but they do talk about how he was raised in Spain.
Yep, they do, and you know what? Like it makes sense, but like it's almost like they made that just so that he could say that. So it's not weird.
You're right. I feel like it wasn't from the. They did it in reverse. They're like, he just won't say.
He was born and raised in Spain. That's why he says Padre. He doesn't speak another lick of Spanish, but he says Padre. And the reason is he was born there and raised there by vampires.
Watching this opening too, like to what you guys were saying about how ridiculous they all are. Like I thought that this movie was going to be like camp, like a comedy.
It was kind of camp. Like
it was camp, but like I thought it was meant to be a comedy, but the only person who is like a comedic character is Jack Crow, and everybody else is
Mr. Glass,
stone cold serious, and there's a little bit of levity
it's
here
true.
and there.
He's the only funny one, and he's not that funny, so that's how much funny you get in this movie. And like anytime he's not around, it's so heavy and almost painful to watch. Like any time where it's Baldwin and his his prisoner, essentially, it's just like it's painful. I don't like it, and it's gross. He talks to her like shit.
He fully groomed
She's
that woman.
cool. She has like cool powers where she can connect with the main vampire, and it's like, utilize that more, man. Like, make the relationship between them mean something, and it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know who greenlit the dynamic between like the only female character in this movie, but it's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah,
it's kind of gross.
It makes you feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Alec Baldwin was a co-producer, and he's like, "All right, Daniel, you're gonna slap her every chance you get.
Every chance,
you have to
and
be
then
really
kiss her.
mean about
You're gonna
it.
slap her and then kiss her and call her baby, and then hit her.
And then when she walks away, you're gonna push her.
Yeah,
you have to make sure. She can't.
Falls down.
Yeah, she never sits. She falls into every piece of furniture that she goes on. She's falling into it.
Also, call her a whore constantly.
Oh God, Jason.
No, that's what he does.
I know, but we didn't do it. We didn't go that far.
I didn't say I did.
I was worried that you were like language, Jason.
You're gonna. Steve cancels me every episode for the smallest reasons, and I get myself into it too sometimes. As they're skulking around this house, they open a door. A sucked person falls out. They're a corpse. They kind of say something about, she's sucked dry.
Can we just refer to all people who have been fed on by vampires as sucked people?
Sucked people.
That's a sucked guy. That guy got sucked. Yeah.
And then the tropiest trope of all tropes happens. James Woods like, okay, guys, I'm going to go a little bit ahead. You guys stay here. And he immediately fucking kicks a can or some shit on the ground and causes a ruckus. And
then he trips and he lights a match off his own beard and then also off someone's boot and like lights everybody's cigarettes at the same time. You're like, wow, this is crazy how many tropes are happening at the same time.
He gets a bigger belt in every shot.
They immediately get attacked by two vampires. Like, I looked I was watching the movie and I went, God damn it, he kicked the thing. And when I looked back, they were getting attacked by vampires.
I like
you were like writing in your notes, I bet they're about to get attacked by anything. I feel like a fuck.
Yeah, that I hear a commotion.
Yeah. I love that there's 9 vampires in the house. Those first two vampires, they go and freak out on the guys, and all the other vampires are like hanging back, like, oh crap.
Oh shit.
I'm scared.
Okay, guys. We should probably attack them from the roof. And James Woods is like looking at the roof the whole time. He's like, I don't know, that guy keeps looking at the roof, man. I don't want to attack from up there.
So they try to unload clips into the vampires, which it's like, they should know that's it is kind of effective in this particular movie for stopping power. But
it probably still hurts. Like, it's not like they're immune to pain. If you get a bullet through the leg as a vampire, you're probably going to go down, but you're not dead. It doesn't kill them. It just wounds them.
Which we'll talk about later, though, can take point blank rounds to the face and basically be unscathed. So there is a difference in this movie. There are regular vampires who are like followers, and then there's masters, and then there's like the supreme master. I guess is the best way we could sort of describe that. And here we get the first like kill. They shoot one with like a harpoon thing. It goes through their chest. They pull.
This is probably like the coolest thing in the movie. Maybe
the first time I saw this, I was like, "Oh, that's a really interesting way to kill vampires." I've never seen this before. Like you said, they fight in the daytime because they're attacking these nests in the day. And I'm like, well, what's that even like? What's the point of that? The point is they just pull them into the fucking sunlight.
Yeah,
we'll
lure them up the stairs, harpoon them, pull them out one by one, and it's like that's how you play a video game. Let's kite these guys into attacking us and just like pick them off one by one.
You draw aggro and then you fucking.
But they make it interesting, because a lot of the times when you play video games, right, and you're doing that kind of tactic, it's fun while you're playing because you're like, look at all the kills we're getting, but to film that, you're like, would be very boring. But in this movie, it's not. It's interesting and fun. Like the way that they're kind of like, all right, we got to get the next one up the stairs. Everybody makes some noise, like ding ding ding.
And we get a montage. We get a montage of them doing this to 9 of them. And we see all of them, and they're stacking when they come out, they explode into fire, and then they turn into like
the practical
skeleton.
effect there with the phosphorus of them just like exploding into flames so hot that you can feel it. Like that is I think the best part of the entire film.
It's a good effect. I like it. And those heads they have lined up on the front of the Jeep, I thought was a cool thing, until James Woods ruins it by saying, "Hey, want some head, Padre?" And it holds up a head.
But he does light a match off a skull, which
that's
pretty cool. But not shot well. It's like it's shot like someone shot it with a camera, but it's not well shot. You're like, okay, cool.
Like, why not a close-up? Follow the match. You know?
Yeah, follow the match. Follow, and then have like an extreme close-up on the thing. Yeah, his weird thin lips saying like coming out like with the thing in his mouth. You know, like you could do so much, but they don't. They do so little. I loved the fact that all the skulls were lined up, and they, you know, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it's like, wait, where's the 10th one? You could do. There's so much you could do. You could do so much with the camera, and they just don't. They don't do anything with it.
Instead, we get a little tease, a cut to hands coming out of the ground. I'm like, what the fuck? What? I kind of like why. I kind of like that we'll talk about it, but basically the vampires, if they don't have a place to hide, they just bury themselves, which I've never seen before.
That's why they're operating in the desert, I guess, because it's easy to bury yourself in sand.
But basically, they've had a big day. They go back to their motel where they've got the police on their payroll who's bringing them prostitutes and beer. That's all they like in this universe is hookers and beer. There's no drug use that I could see.
So this is like one of the things that I have like a huge problem with, but at the same time, I get it, because it's like they are heroes. They consider themselves heroes. They deal with cannibals, basically. They're killing monsters, so they have no respect for human beings, like, at all.
Yeah.
When Daniel Baldwin steals the car later in the movie, he in no way tries to use charisma or tact or diplomacy.
Like, fuck you.
He's like, I'll blow your fucking brains out if you don't give me this car. And I don't know if that's because he's infected already, or if that's just because I don't even think he is infected at that point.
This is
that's
like
just
the
him.
next scene.
Yeah.
No, they just take it, and they just drive like 20 minutes down the road to their
Yeah, and then like James Woods is hiding behind like a sand dune,
like a bush.
You got it, and it's like they're just criminals, like
I
they're
can see
shitty
you.
criminals. Yeah.
There's another layer to that too, where vampires exist in this universe. Only the vampire hunters and the priests really know they exist, and they explain that away by saying people don't want to know about these monsters. So it gives this group of criminals just this free reign to do whatever they want in their own minds. And the problem with that is that they're just going around and doing all this shit and then showing up and acting like they're lying and cheating to like get intel on different crime scenes and stuff too, right? So it's this weird, like, they're basically shitty bikers who go around killing people, and then the news is like, a whole church of people killed tonight, no leads, and it just looks like they're going in and just massacring.
Yeah, they're like a biker gang came in, but they didn't do anything racist or homophobic or sexist except for, have sex with a bunch of hookers. But there are a weird amount of dead bodies.
There's a lot of casualties
and a lot less murders now.
It looks like they burned them alive, but yes. Yeah. So I thought that was both interesting and kind of like ham-fisted. Ham-fist. I also was like, oh, is this going to be one of those things where they never call them vampires because they call them goons and they call them suckers, I think. But nope, at 17 minutes...
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
They finally say vampires, and it's kind of interchangeable with goons. Call them goons a lot.
The Goon Squad. I'll be right back. I'm going to get another cup of coffee.
So... I don't know. I thought that was fine, but like pick a lane, like on The Walking Dead. I don't think the word zombie is said a single time in 400 seasons or whatever. I think they should have stuck to calling them goons or geeks or something like that. That was.
I was excited as well because I thought it was going to end up being like this cool ensemble movie of like, who are these guys? What's happening to them? But then like they say the word vampire like 13 times rapid fire after not saying it like you said, and then immediately axed. All of them just die in this like well executed but still floppy sort of combat sequence that happens.
Yeah, and that it goes into like another floppy combat. Floppy.
Oh,
jeez,
the bodies are floppy, the hookers are floppy. Like this guy just comes in and it's like, ding dong, I have your pizza. That's not pizza, it's a vampire.
It's a vampire.
And then he just walks in and he just like takes a person's head and just goes like, ha, and like they're dead, and he just moves on to the next guy.
It does, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't hear everything, but it's filmed like a porno, right? That's what you're saying.
This sequence is filmed.
Floppy.
It's floppy. They basically, what happens here is like they're just partying, and then James Woods goes to who we find out is Katrina, and he's like, go back to my room, and gives her his card, and she goes there, and the fucking Valek is waiting there, who is the master vampire. But as soon as
like, did somebody order extra sausage? And he's got the pizza on his crotch.
I mean, you joke, no, but he's a pervert. He sucks blood from his victims from their. He uses the inside of her leg, her thigh, as where he sucks the blood from.
Well, I mean, that's where one of the main arteries are in a human being. Like, that's where I would suck blood from too. You get a nice flow from there. The neck is the fool's vein. I don't know. People who go for the neck are idiots.
The neck is the food of the hungry vampire, but the liquor of the foolish vampire.
Somebody clip all of that. That was all fucking. Oh my god, that was good. We're firing all cylinders this week, friends.
Yeah, nothing's better than saying "clip it" at the end of a clip, right?
Yeah, and leaving that into the.
The thigh is the smart man's vein.
I also don't buy James Woods as a ladies' man from this sequence either. I'm like, you could post a billboard on this man's forehead. His chin, he's got a butt chin, but not in like a cool way.
Is there anybody in this crew that you would be into?
You know, Daniel Baldwin, he's a goofy looking guy, but I think he's got more charisma than James Woods.
He's handsomer, but he's also kind of like constantly sweaty, kind and his hair looks like it's wet all the time. I'm like,
ski goggles. Shang Tsung is here, like he's in the cast. He's wearing ski goggles while.
But didn't he die in the first house?
Oh no, you're right. He's dead.
He's not in the scene.
Yeah, he never made it.
I would have taken Shang Tsung for sure. I would have been like, you can take my soul.
You can take
my soul is yours. Yeah.
I exclaimed nudity because there was a bunch of nudity in this. We kind of covered all this. The master's on the wall in Jack's room and gets the hooker. He takes.
Well, like doesn't he suck on what's her name outside first? And like she's out there like
yeah,
and like as they're about to leave, James Woods is like, hold on a minute, I can use you. And it's like this weird sort of like reality of a running away situation where I'm like, I appreciate this happening, but I don't like how long it's taking. Like it's like he runs to the car and then runs to her and then runs back to the car and then runs to her and opens the car and throws her in. And Daniel Baldwin the whole time is like, get in the fucking car, man. And I'm like, what is taking the vampire so long? And then finally, as they're driving away, the vampire comes out. And he's like, damn it, I just missed them.
Well, he does massacre everybody except for.
I know, but you know, it's like the difference between like a Zack Snyder movie and a John Carpenter movie is that John Carpenter's vampire is going to go around and kill everybody individually. And we know he's in there doing that. Whereas the Zack Snyder, we would see it in bloody slow motion detail of him like beheading everybody one by one.
Do you think Zack Snyder remade this movie basically shot for shot?
I think that Zack Snyder needs to stop remaking things. Let's just,
we just move
tell him to, yeah. Because like all he does is really add like a bunch of sexual assault, and you're like, dude, I don't think that movie needed that.
This might be the horniest John Carpenter movie we've covered so far.
Yeah,
I've never seen this much nudity in a John Carpenter movie.
I mean, there's some horniness in his other movies, but it's more like just regular horniness. There's nothing gross about it. This is like a gross kind of horny.
I did think that as they're driving away in the truck and they're like, go, go, go. And I'm like, can the master get them? Like he walked out of the motel slowly and then he finally flies back. That was the one moment of suspense for me in the entire film.
And you were like, oh, he can fly.
And then he never flies again.
No. He
doesn't need to.
They grab Katrina and they jump in the car and they drive off. And he is chasing them like on foot and basically gets to them. And they just like knock him off the car, and then he's like, well, I guess I can't pursue them anymore. But then like 2 seconds later, there's just this truck in the middle of the road and they swerve and crash. So like, what was this? What was any of this? I was very confused.
It was the script saying we need to have at least a short-ish car chase. And what is the car chase? It's not a car chase. It's just a car being chased by a flying man who lands on the car and they get freaked out by it. But, you know, like that idea is fun. And we've seen it done a million times in other movies, probably better, even maybe before this movie. But it was cool. Like they got a crane, they got him to fly in there, and you know we saw some interesting action. But then you think of something like Jeepers Creepers, which came out not even that long after this movie, and like they perfected the flying monster, you know, where they're like, he can fly and he also drives a truck. Imagine the vampire could fly and drive a truck. Holy shit.
I do like Thomas Ian Griffith, who plays Valek. He's the bad guy from Karate Kid Part 3. He's also the bad guy in Cobra Kai. The third
two things
guy.
I've definitely seen.
Well, Cobra Kai is actually, I know you're not like a huge TV guy, Steve, but Cobra Kai was like a really good like rehab.
I watch some TV.
Cobra Kai is a show that's worth watching. Anyway, I saw his big dumb face. I'm going, where the fuck do I know this guy from?
I feel like I've seen that face get
Thank
cobra
you so
punched.
Much, I couldn't place it the whole time, and I'm like, I know this guy. I feel a strange attraction to this guy,
and I can't tell why. Is it because he can fly?
Yeah, his name is Terry Silver Terry Silver. He's got silver hair. I don't know why he was called that when he had black hair in the 80s. Anyway, that I just wanted to point him out and shout him out because that I liked his. He was acting in this movie, like he was doing some acting, whereas some people like weren't, you know.
You telling me an actor was acting in this movie? Hold on, back it up.
Some of them were.
I don't believe you.
I think that Daniel Baldwin thought he was shooting a documentary because he was.
He was kind of killing it. Yeah,
he's being himself.
Yeah,
that's how I felt.
Where like there's points where like he goes off and then you hear John Carpenter in the background go action. It's like, oh, they just used the behind the scenes for that one.
I just hope he didn't actually hit that woman. That's what I'm hoping. So we get
no, he hit another woman, the craft service person.
Just not even an extra.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he had to get it out of him before he shot the scene.
Jesus Christ. Right. So we get a little bit of exposition dump where we find out that it takes 48 hours for the vampirism to take over. When you get bit by a vampire, maybe just the master.
But this is also one of those things where it's not even forgivable because of how late this movie came out. It's 1998. We're beyond the trope of somebody getting bit.
They're just changing the tropes for the hell of it. It's John Carpenter's vampire.
But they're also
so
like trying to like, they're not hiding it from us, which is good, but the character hiding it. And like, if they did something more interesting where they kept focusing on James Woods, like figuring it out and knowing, and like, you know, like him like using mirrors and shit to like make sure he's watching her, like
they just
anything.
Tell you. I was just going to say the psychic link thing is basically if a master bites you, then as you're turning into a vampire, they can see through the master's eyes like a telekinetic link, which is
the master can also see through their eyes.
Right.
It's the vampire spawn sort of like, yeah, you're connected telepathically.
So they're like, we're going to use you. And all that I could think was like, what if that's not how it works? And she's like, no, I'm a vampire now. I'm going to not help you. Why would I help you? But she does. She helps right up to the end.
Yeah, because then the movie wouldn't happen properly.
Credits. She's like, no, credits.
Bites James Woods. We're like, okay. I guess it's over. But I mean, like, that's interesting and fun, and I like that. But like, maybe they use that instead of hiding it for so goddamn long. Like, they know she's bit, and like that's why he wants her. Right? He's like, I can use her. But then Baldwin gets bit, and then he's hiding it the whole time. And you're like, that's the movie now. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Did you also get kind of the vibe that, like, Montoya is his name? He was gonna turn heel. There's gonna be a big heel turn at the end or something. Because I felt like his character was very like.
Well, that's the subjective like they subverted our expectations in that way,
Yeah,
where like
okay.
he didn't attack James. Like we expect him to attack him at some point, right? And he doesn't. And they have like a heartfelt hug, and it's nice, but at the same time, you're like, you know, it would be really cool if like instead of that, they figured it out before the fight, and he was just like swinging with vampire powers and just like uppercutting people's tops of their jaws off and shit or something, you know, like kicking a guy through the wall or, you know, like something crazy.
He just becomes Blade.
Did we gloss over the part where he put his big fat sweaty body on top of that poor woman?
Oh gosh.
For like a 7-minute shot, just to be like,
we did gloss over it, but it's because
you
I
smell like a vampire, you taste like a vampire.
And we're like, ugh, I can smell you through my TV screen from 28 years ago.
He smells like salami for sure, and aftershave. For sure. Salami. Yeah. He smells like Tony Soprano looks. This is the carjacking. They stop at a gas station. They carjack a guy, like you said. He's just an asshole about it. And James Woods is like in the bushes, like,
yeah, like
all
right,
10 feet away.
Car. Go over there and just, you know, pistol whip the shit out of that fucking weirdo. It's like, he's just a guy.
He's just a guy.
He's like, can I help you, sir? And he's like, oh yeah, you can help me. You can help me by backing the fuck up, or I'll blow your brains out.
I'll blow your brains out.
Shit, he couldn't find an empty car. I don't know. I guess a car right next to a guy,
or a pedal bike. Like they weren't that far.
Yeah. They weren't that far at all.
He steals two motors. He steals two pedal bikes.
They steal a 3-person tandem bike. Ring, ring. Yeah. But she's like in the middle, like passing out and not helping.
And they're just slapping her, being like, "Pedal,
wake up, pedal, tar for going uphill."
Yeah, so basically they make it the plan to split up. Never bury a team member by yourself is the big. There's a bunch of rules, and they bring up like 4 of the 10 or 11. It makes no fucking sense.
You never know. The highest rule is 7, and they do rule 1.
He says rule 10 at the end. He's like, rule 10, never let a fucking vampire leave or whatever.
Never let them leave.
Yeah. And then as he's leaving, he's like, rule 666. And he like sticks his middle fingers up, and the sun comes up and kills him.
It's just like a manual for selling vacuum cleaners from the 80s. Pretty much. Changed. Never let them leave.
They scratch out vacuum cleaner with vampire for every
same amount of sucking.
Every line. Yeah.
They've all been sucked.
They basically decide that they go against this
Assume
rule.
Every house already has a sucker inside.
Yeah, and make sure you stake the vacuum cleaner and the vampire. Just anything sucking, we got to kill. They decide that Baldwin Montoya is a great name. Is gonna take the woman to Monterey to the hotel, or to Monterey. Hotel's on the way to Monterey. A little bit of prose there for you. And James Woods is going to go back to the hotel and like clean up and investigate, I guess, or like pick up all his dead pals and bury them. I wonder if he left the prostitutes and the cop behind, because they're very focused on his team.
Well, they go and meet the priest or whatever, right? Like, is
that's after. This is where they split up. We get that stupid shot of him with like a bag of heads and a weird like cut in the ground where he's like, it's implied he buried them there, where they clearly just found a spot that was kind of a hole in the ground. And this is where we got all the gross stuff with Montoya and a naked lady who was turning into
like
a vampire.
The biggest, nicest hotel room you could ever buy for 12 doleros or whatever. Like, what? How do they even? I don't. You know, I've never been in a hotel room so nice.
No, and it's $375 for a week.
Yeah.
And it's in the middle of like a random small town in New Mexico. Like it's just beautiful, beautiful building.
Yeah.
Also,
but surrounded by vampires, so I guess that's why it's so cheap.
True. When Jack's cleaning up, he makes sure to decapitate everybody, which I thought was.
Well, you have to, or else they'll come back and suck you like a vacuum cleaner.
Like a vacuum cleaner. Yeah. And just a montage of Jack fucking burning stuff and walking away from explosions without looking back at them, because we have to really. James Woods is the action star for the 2000s. Okay, this is it. This is where it all begins.
John Carpenter was like, "We're really gonna change the game by making a 50-year-old man a vampire hunter."
Also, everything in this movie,
and we're gonna hike those genes up real high. James.
We gotta add height. He's like 5'4" and 110 pounds.
But you hike those pants up. He's 5'5", baby.
Yeah. It's
high-waisted leather jacket, some heels on them boots.
They found one.
He's practically 6 feet tall.
They found 1 kilo of cocaine in an old dusty backlot studio.
No, they found them in James Woods' booth. Just gave him extra height. Yeah.
Yeah. Then
that's why he looks shorter at the end of the movie, because they did all the cocaine.
Like everything in this movie has been done before this to death. And they're like, this is a new idea.
That's the biggest problem, right? Is like nothing really feels new except for the how do we take out vampires in an interesting way? And like that's why I said at the beginning, it's great in moments, but everything that isn't that stuff we've seen before, and we've seen it better even within the same year or before this and just after this. There's so many good things in like From Dusk Till Dawn and Blade and even Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a show that came out years before this movie. Like one thing that would have made this movie amazing is that if like halfway through the movie, like Sarah Michelle Gellar showed up as Buffy and like helped them and like turned into the hero, it would have been like, this fucking rules. But that doesn't happen. We're stuck with James Woods calling people homos and talking about boners and shit. And you're like, oh my God.
He talks about boners more than he talks about vampires.
It's because he wants to be a vacuum cleaner. He's
all
got
he
his
wants to do
own.
is suck and blow.
Yeah.
No one's gonna suck you but me. Don't worry, Padre.
Tim in the chat says, like in quotations, "Hey James, let's try that scene again. Same thing except the jeans are higher. No higher than that. Keep going." Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
too high. We can see the cocaine in your boots. He walks like tufts of cocaine. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, let's just keep going through the plot, I guess. But yeah, like we get to the other thing, which is him talking to a priest, and the priest just sounds like Dracula, and you're like, okay. This guy's gonna be Dracula later, I guess, or like working for Dracula or whatever.
He's got like doilies all over his body, and he's like, I don't know who could have tipped them off.
He's like, whoa, Blair,
I'm certainly not
Crow, Jack Crow, my old friend.
They keep saying his full name. Like,
I kept saying it in my head, like, does Jack Crow mean, like, is that something? But no, it's just a dumb fucking action hero name. My name's John Crow. I'm John Crow. No, you're James Woods.
Yeah, they should have called him James Crow.
Yeah.
Or Jack Woods.
Or Jack Burton, and he should have been played by Kurt Russell, and it would have probably been a way better movie.
Yeah, so
he could have kept talking about the trouble he had in Chinatown.
It
was big trouble.
It was big trouble.
You gotta get up pretty early in the morning.
Yeah. And you know, the check's in the mail.
We're introduced to
punches the vampire's head off.
Father Adam, who I forgot his name and kept calling him Father Allen through the rest of this. So if I say that, that's why. Father Adam is the new padre, and the cardinal. He talks about how their European vampire squad got wiped out because the vampires are getting stronger. We never hear about this again. It's just the vampires are stronger now. So.
Well, that's where like the Buffy idea comes into my head, right? It's like, oh, Buffy could be part of like this Slayer, you know, worldwide Slayer. What would you even call it? I guess like just like a guild, I guess, like a vampire Slayers guild, right? And like
it's like club. It's a club,
yeah, but like Buffy is the chosen one, right? That's why Giles is like, I am trusted to train the chosen one, and it's like James Woods. Not a chosen one. He's just like, I'm just good at killing vampires.
I'm just a wise-cracking, pole-smoking, jack of all trades, Padre. We were introduced to a photo of Jan Valek, who's the master vampire. We get a little bit of... is this where they explain basically how he became that way? It was like a crucifixion that didn't go all the way, and it turned into a reverse crucifixion. So
yeah,
he's
they
patient.
Put a demon inside his body
by
accident.
Like they're like, we crucified him so hard that his body was killed, but the demon inside him was fine.
And he's also patient.
In fact, we made it stronger somehow.
Patient zero for vampirism, and he's 600 years old, so vampirism has only been around for 600 years.
Well, that's kind of like what...
1300s, no vampires. You're fine.
Yeah. Just werewolves.
Well, I mean, that's what like what's it called? Midnight Mass is like sort of all about this idea, right? Of like a fallen angel and like what they are, like a crucified being part of the night or having like the darkness inside them, and they have to live at night and feed off of humans. And so this isn't like a new idea. And you watch something like, you guys have seen Midnight Mass, both of you?
Oh yeah. I like that you're not a TV guy, but you bring up Midnight Mass.
I haven't, but it's on the list. It's for sure a show that I'm gonna
rules.
I'm gonna love that show. I know I am.
That was one of those shows that I'm like, I'll watch this because it looks cool. I love small town mysteries, and I didn't even know what it was about. And then once I get into it, I'm like, holy shit, it's amazing.
This is something I can really sink my teeth into.
Yeah. And then I winked at my own mirror in my face, and I was like, I wish I had friends. Yeah. But yeah, like that is a good version of what they did. Well, I mean, what they did in this is not necessarily bad either, right? Like the sort of like the stigmata effect where they reverse curse basically, or like I guess just curse. It's not a reverse curse. It's just they've cursed them by
they call it a reverse
crucifying them for an unjust reason and creating a monster out of it.
Yeah,
which is cool, but that part I completely forgot about until you just brought it up because of how much I am like, this movie blows.
They talk about it like 3 times and add more details to it.
Every single time. And at one point, James Woods takes the padre into a bathroom, accuses him of having a boner, and then beats the shit out of him, gets the information out of him, and then says, welcome to the club, and leaves him in there.
And then treats him real nice because he puts like the thing on his hand and he like pats him on the back and stuff.
It's okay.
So the Cardinals, like the Vatican, called and they want to put together a new super team at full strength.
Also, the Vatican called again afterwards and they said, stop beating people up for no reason in the bathroom. There's blood everywhere. Blood.
And we cut over to the hotel room and Katrina wakes up fucking butt-ass naked. Because naturally, what old Montoya had to do is get this woman naked because she's a vampire, I guess. What is that? So we could see
the fangs could be anywhere.
There's a lot of implied. So even like him beating the padre up in the bathroom is sort of like this implied sexual assault is happening there, and we're seeing that instead of seeing the actual sexual assault that's happening in the other. I think that they're towing the line and they're balancing these things, and they're it's meant to like make you think like, okay, so this is happening to this guy. Imagine what's happening to her now that we're seeing that she's completely naked. And I hate it. I hate that so much. It makes me like the entire movie. I hated this fucking bag of gas, and like every time I see more of it, I'm just like, shoot him in the head. And like him getting a nice send off, being like, I'll give you 2 days. It's like, no, fucking give him 2 bullets, 1 in each eyeball, and say, tell your mother I love her or whatever.
I know we're kind of skipping ahead to the end here, but I thought he was going to shoot him in the back of the head. I thought he was going to kill him as he walked away, and that would have been the last shot. And I would have been like, nah, all right.
No, well, there's 2 sequels to this, so they had a plan.
So Baldwin goes and bites Bon Jovi.
But I mean, I would have even been okay if he shot him in the head and they let her go. You know, like let her be the
some
sequel.
Redemption, but she really didn't. Yeah.
Or she shoots him in the head. That would have been fucking sick.
I mean, she's a woman in a John Carpenter movie where they become an afterthought pretty quick. A lot of times.
I don't know, not in all of them, but
not in all of them. But remember, what was the one that was ridiculous?
My name's Casey Locke.
The Fog.
My name's Casey Locke.
Casey Fogg. That one was like hilarious, where Jamie Lee Curtis was there just for basically no reason. At first, it seemed like she was going to be something, and then she's just there to annoy.
Well, that was also an early Carpenter where nobody in that movie really had anything to do except for the radio host, who was the woman character, and she was pretty much the main character of the movie.
True. And the women in Assault on Precinct 13, one was pretty useless and one was kind of one of the main characters.
They both seemed like Band-Aid characters to me. One of them dies and the other one's like literally putting Band-Aids on people.
But she's at least an implied police officer, which they never say out loud.
But that was me and Tim being like, she's got to be a police officer, right? She shot that guy in the eye. She was such a good shot.
She's such a crack shot.
She has cop powers.
So anyway, Katrina wakes up and freaks the fuck out, which it's like, of course she does, because she's naked with this giant man, and he like gets on top of her and covers her mouth, which looks really like, I hated it. And basically he explains the situation, and he's like, we're going to use you as bait. And on the other side of things, we get the exposition dump from Adam. We hear about, Jack talks about how his parents were vampires, and Jack had to like kill his own dad, and he wants to be the master slayer, and Jack is just mad. So he beats up Father Adam, like you said. There was some good cinematography in this movie. I like when John Carpenter does like wide shots of like nature, you know?
That's what I was saying earlier, is like he has his master shots in mind, right? Like he knows how he wants to shoot a main section of the movie, but when it comes to close-ups and dialogue, he doesn't know what the fuck. He's like, I'll just shoot them all sitting around this car. And you're like, it's fucking boring, bro.
It's like he puts the camera down. Like he's like, okay, go ahead.
He's just like chain smoking cigarettes, being like, are we done?
He's playing Star Fox.
Yeah.
And then
I can't figure out how to get Slippy off of this fucking planet. Follow me, Fox.
Jack is basically like, everything you know about vampires is wrong. Okay? You know, garlic, that's not going to do a lick of good. You try to stab them, no. You can decapitate them, or you can basically pull them into the sun, and that's basically all you got. Shooting bullets at them, nothing. And we find out that like there's a map. They show them a map of the kill areas and imply that the vampires are fanning out as though they're looking for something. And Adam's like, they're looking for the Black Cross, which becomes the major MacGuffin of the movie, which has some...
The Black Mass, which we get at the end of the movie.
Yeah. And then he asks him if he gets a boner from getting his ass kicked.
Yeah. He asks him if he got wood.
Yeah.
You get wood?
You got wood.
James Wood.
So Katrina has the psychic link now, and she wakes up and...
Oh, yeah. James Wood also says, Hurricane Katrina, more like Hurricane Tortilla. And then he like goes, and then he smooches the priest on the mouth.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Can't kiss a priest.
Not on the mouth.
Not on the mouth.
This is my favorite part. Katrina gets magic vampire telepathy, and she's seeing through the master's eyes. And they're like, where is he? Where is he? And the master just like looks at a sign of San Miguel, and she's like, there it's San Miguel.
Yeah, he's staring at the sign. He's literally been staring at it for like 15 minutes. He won't look at anything else.
I love it. Like, I don't even know why this.
But
guy
then like it
needs a
goes down.
roadside.
He's been peeing for a really long time. Just like
peeing blood.
Yeah, peeing blood.
And that's when they actually use her vampirism. Right now she's just getting flashes, which she sees more, and then when they need her to use the power, she's like, I can't see anything, and then she sees that sign. This is the point where Montoya's like, here, eat this fucking hamburger. You got to eat, because there's
the
a
more
rule.
Food you eat, the slower you become a vampire.
Which I've never heard that one before. So
me neither.
That's
like, really.
In fact, it's commonly known about vampires that they can't eat human food after they've become vampires.
I think it's like they have to eat meat in this world.
Not for old Johnny. He was just like, we need more time.
How do we stretch this out? I don't know. She eats like a burger, or she like refuses to eat the burger, like, and then she eats his arm.
Yeah,
and then he gets mad and he punches her in the face.
The thing that's ridiculous here too is like after he's like, eat this burger, he opens the burger, sniffs it, and is like,
and he's like,
ugh, and throws it.
Not even a regular human like me would eat this shit.
Yeah. So then he explains basically why she's like, why don't people know about vampires? I already explained that. It's because they just don't want to know.
Because nobody's trying to know about.
Nobody
vampires.
wants to know. We get a flash of what the master's up to. He's slashing and bashing, is exactly what I wrote. And so there's this dumb scene too where
he fights all the monks.
No, we're not. Yeah, I think that's that part. But back at the hotel room, she's like, I need to go to the washroom. And he's like, okay, go. And she's like, can I have a fucking towel? I'm naked. And he's like, fine, one towel coming up.
But he also says, it's not like I haven't seen you naked already.
Also gross.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
So he gives her a towel reluctantly, and then as she's going in, she's like, tries to close the door, and he's like, leave it open. And she's like,
what do you think, I'm stupid? You think I'm going to let you close the door?
Do you know how I know he's stupid? She's in there for 8 seconds, and he falls asleep.
Yeah, he's an idiot. Also, she's like, thank God, and then she just starts letting him rip.
I mean, look at him. Like you just look at him, and you know he's just like licking burritos and stuff.
He's eating just the French fries.
Like he's eating just prosciutto from a bag.
Yeah.
And he's just
Or
like
squirting ketchup packs in his mouth. Like a psychopath. He looks like a vampire, but it's just ketchup.
he puts the fries under his lip and he's like, ah.
Also, what was the acting choice when he comes to and realizes that like she's probably escaped? He's doing this weird pout. He's like looking around with this weird pout. I thought that was strange.
Why did you try that?
Why did you try that?
I think he's supposed to be sleepy, maybe.
He's sleepy. He's a sleepy powder, pouty sleeper. So she's
This is how Alec does it when he's tired.
They're like, Daniel, do sleepy. And he's like, I'm on so much cocaine. What is?
I don't know how to sleep anymore.
He just closes his eyes. He's just acting with his eyes closed.
I'm sleeping.
I'm
So
asleep.
they keep talking about how she's out on a fire escape when she's clearly just on a ledge outside the building. I don't know what her end game was here, other than to just like click clack herself.
I'm sorry, that's so funny.
It's very funny.
Daniel Baldwin trying to be sleepy, just closing his eyes and acting with his eyes closed. That's how he plays sleepy.
And everyone's fine with it on set. Everyone's like, what?
No, he looks tired. Like
Baldwin. Let's not question it. He might storm.
His
out
hair
of
is
here.
great, and he looks like Alec.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, she's out on a ledge. He grabs her and pulls her back in through another, like she goes across, and he pulls her in through another window. They crash to the ground. His arm gets busted open, and she goes right for the blood. But they don't do the thing that they do in vampire movies where they are like, if your blood is exposed, they usually talk about it a little bit. This was a real show don't tell moment, I suppose.
Yeah, it happens immediately. It's not like a long drawn out, like he's got a wound
and she
she's
keeps
like
looking at
fiending
it
for it. Yeah.
Which I thought was okay, you know, like I said it jokingly, but a show don't tell does well in a movie where they just keep telling you everything.
Yeah, but I thought they were gonna like really subvert expectations and have it be like he tells James Woods immediately, you know, like I thought that was kind of like the way their team worked, you know, like if you get bit right away, tell your team.
He does that
like
thing
they can use you until you're useless and then they can kill you.
He does that thing that people do in every zombie movie where they go,
where he falls in love with the vampire
and then falls in love with the zombie. He falls in love with the vampire. No, but
he's like, listen, I know I beat you up a bunch and raped you, but you know, like I'm in love with you now. She's like, I'm in love with you too.
He just,
like,
well, she doesn't really say very much else for the rest of the movie, which is why I'm like, he groomed her. Basically, they're, you know, it's a really weird relationship because she never is like, I love you too, or I even like you. She has all that stuff where she wakes up naked and then now he's just kissing her and stuff, and she's got a baby's brain because she's a vampire. It's fucking weird, dude. I don't know why they wrote it this
Everything about this is bad. The good stuff in this movie is not this. Every time we go back to this, I'm like, let's get away from this, please. I don't like any of this.
Well,
and it's also half the movie, which is like, pretty tough.
Yeah.
He also throws her off him and then punches her in the face and then cauterizes the wound with a fucking Zippo.
Yeah.
Which was like,
what? He cauterizes so many wounds in this movie so badly.
But also, it looks like he was like doing that for real. Like he was like holding the flame to his actual arm. He's like, I'm gonna get nominated for all the Obie Awards.
Got from this.
I'm gonna get a Grammy for this.
I'm gonna write a review and get a Pulitzer for this.
It's gonna be called My Time as a Sucker.
I'm gonna get the Peabody Award for how hilarious my performance is. And that's real. It's not. Jack and Father Allen show up. Jack is like, what happened here? Why is her jaw bruised? He's like,
why is your arm bleeding suspiciously?
Yeah.
I fell through the window onto some fang-shaped glass pieces, and
then I was mad. I was mad, so I punched her. And Jack's like, that's sus, dude.
That tracks. No, he's like, that seems like something you would do.
It's true, because you're always beating up hookers. Which is
there's like a moment where it's like, you got something you want to tell me? No. And then they're like, okay. All right. Good.
He's just spinning his guns like a fucking cowboy in the corner, like Red Dead.
Cocaine coming out of his boot.
So Adam is like, okay, well, you know, what happened here? Father Adam's like, what happened here is a little bit like, we got to let the Cardinal know. So once again, Jack beats the shit out of him for trying to call the Cardinal to let him know that things are going sideways a little bit. And this is where we get a hard Katrina link, and we see Valek. Oh, it's just her that sees this, but she sees Valek cut a woman's head off comically. No, her head gets cut off, right? Is this where
he
goes?
Cuts a lot of people's heads off.
Anyway,
like,
and
karate chops people's heads off and stuff.
And then we get that first person shot that every horror movie has, where it's going towards somebody, and they're like, no.
But we wanted to see like a head roll off shot, right? Like a camera kind of like tumble. Like, why don't we get one of those? And
this is where we get the San Miguel thing, where they're like, tell us where he is. She's like, I can't see anything. I think it's in play that they punched her again, and then she was like,
they're holding her by the eyes, and she's like, just take your hands off my eyes for a second. Let me look.
Think about
Shut up, you dumb bitch. Just look better.
It's terrible.
So Montoya's already kind of showing signs from being bit. He's showing that like, oh, lightheaded.
But this is now when like Montoya is no longer a character. He's just slowly
a gelatinous sweat blob.
He's becoming Daniel Baldwin in real life in the movie.
Watch as Montoya.
And then we get a new character. We get this little sprightly twink priest who is all about not swearing, and he's all about going up into the rafters and jumping down and kicking people.
Well, he becomes an action star later.
Yeah.
He was my favorite character. I made sure I picked one. I was like, I like this guy. This guy fucking rules.
Well, he's the only reasonable character in the whole movie.
Yeah.
The first priest and then this priest. This priest has been in the movie now for a little bit. He's been beaten up a couple times by old Jackie. They go to the church where she saw the vision to investigate. Jack makes up some lie about how there's been a string of hate crimes involving the Catholic Church. And the cop is like, you better not be lying about this. And he's like, I promise. And the cop's like, okay.
Yeah, I believe you.
Go ahead. Check out our crime scene. If there's anything we can do to help, let us know.
What's your name again? Mr. Crow? That doesn't sound like a made-up name at all. Go on in, sir.
Go on in.
Ain't you Jack Glass?
I swear Jack Crow sounds like a character name you would make in D&D if you're playing D&D for the first time, or you're a DM who's already made 1,000 names. I need a name. I don't know. Jack Crow, I guess.
Jack Crow.
So this is the scene where they cruise off, and they stop, and Jack needs to get more information out of Alan. So he beats the shit out of him and threatens to kill him and cuts his hand. And then as soon as he gives up the information about the Black Cross is a astrological sign from the medieval times, and Valek is an old school vampire, blah blah blah, he hides underground and emerges from the dirt every night, that's the thing I like about this movie. I've never seen that before. It's like they somehow combine zombies and vampires in a weird way.
And he comes out of the dirt hands
first.
He doesn't come out to like look around and see what's around, or if the sun's up, he's just like,
how does he go into the dirt? Does he just sink? Does he just have a power?
He goes like this
first.
He lies on the ground and he's just like, and he puts his hands like this, and he falls asleep, and he makes sure there's a bit of dirt on his face, so the sun can't get at it. And sometimes he leaves his nose out, and he wakes up and he's like, fuck, I left my nose uncovered
again.
Yeah, and so he comes up with no nose, and he has to wait the next day for his nose to regenerate.
That's so fucking good. So yeah, he's got a squad of so he does that again. They all emerge. It's nighttime now. He's got a squad of 7 very 90s looking people as vampires.
There's like a guy, like he's like a business major. There's like the woman from the corner store.
Yeah,
there's just like a really regular looking guy, and they're like, why are you here? And he's like, I have a very large wiener. They're like, oh my god.
And a gambling problem.
The vampire lord is like, he does.
It's huge.
I sucked on it.
I bit it sideways like a corn cob.
When he's around, that's better than what I was going to
say. So Katrina sees all this, and she's like, they're all masters. And yeah, Jack's still beating up fucking Father Adam. Cuts him for info, then pats him on the back as soon as he gives up the info. And it's called the Cross of Berzier. Valek makes it to the monastery, and Valek got a reverse exorcism. So he fucking kills everybody in the monastery in a hilarious scene where he's just killing monks.
Yeah.
Oh, the gore. The Foley for the gore in this movie is so funny. It's just the grossest squelching whenever he's like killing people. It's like
It's a lot of like mashed potato sound effects, yeah. But not bad though. Like I think the Foley in this movie is actually quite good. Even the screams and stuff, they're all right.
You're a sound design guy. Like your ears pick that up probably better than the average fellow.
I get kind of annoyed sometimes when there's lazy Foley, and I didn't notice it in this one, but I do notice it in a lot of movies. And I'll tell you, John Carpenter, he doesn't skimp, man. He doesn't skimp on the sound effects. Even like the corny sound effects that you hear in like Big Trouble and stuff, they're like iconic almost. Like they create specific sound effects for that movie. And I didn't notice anything that stood out being like, wow, that was amazing, but I wasn't also like, ugh, bad clanking sound.
You had some issues with Assault on Precinct 13 last week, but that movie was made in
well,
the
that
70s.
Was also like they were using stock sound effects, right? They didn't have the budget to do that kind of stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, those are all Lucas Foley stock barn noises they can just like pull from the library. But yeah, I didn't notice a lot in this one. And I did notice that the squishies were squishy.
Very squelchy.
They were good squishy and squelchy, yeah.
We find out that this monastery has the cross to the point that he gets to the cross and gets his hands right on it. And Katrina's like, he found it. And when they get to the monastery, it's like that scene in Starship Troopers where they get to the
brain bug.
He sucked his brains out.
Yeah,
he sucked his brains.
They're walking through, seeing all the carnage, and it looked like they used real bodies for this. Where in Starship Troopers, it was like a lot of like mannequins.
Well, that's another thing about Verhoeven and Carpenter. They know when to use the practical effects, and they know when to do it properly, right? Like the very beginning of the movie, when the first assault on the house, when they stab the guy in his head, there's like a dummy head that they have for a second there, and then it cuts to a guy with like a prop in his head, and it's not seamless, but it's like almost seamless to the point that you would call it perfect, where you're like, I know where the seam is, but I like it and it looks good.
I think my favorite part about this scene was that the fountain was just turned to blood. There was a fountain in the foreground that was just
very like D&D style, where it's like, holy shit, it's
like
a fountain of blood.
Did he do that with magic, or does the fountain just have like an input that puts the water out and people died into it?
Well, I think we can all safely assume that vampires are magical, to some degree, right?
I'll kill all these guys and also make this fountain blood.
The monks were like, oh, it's 2 a.m. in the middle of the desert in our monastery. Let's all hang out outside tonight, guys. And they're like, yeah.
It's Saturday. It's the only day of the week we're allowed to get drunk at 2 a.m.
Yeah, and it's the only day we're allowed to talk.
Yeah. Come on, kick your sandals off and have a good time.
Kick your sandals off.
Montoya and Jack get into a bit of a fight over Katrina, how they should sort of be treating her, and this is where we get our first inkling that Montoya might have a little bit of a crush on his captive, groomed, child-brained future bride.
Yeah, even our protagonist is like, just beat her up. She's a dumb hooker, vampire, whore, slut. And it's like,
he's like, that's my girlfriend you're talking about, and she's like, I don't know you. You did bad things to me in a hotel room.
There's like a ratings board person in the audience, and they're just like writing notes. John Carpenter's like, what are you writing? And she's like, you put it in the movie, man.
Yeah, you wrote the word whore in the script 72 times.
Yeah. Does she need to be naked right now? Yes, it's part of the plot.
Okay, John. Yeah. What happened to this guy? He made Halloween. Yeah, but he also made Escape from L.A.
He also made Ghosts of Mars a year later, and you're like, leash.
So we find out that the Berzier Cross allows Valek to fully reverse exercise and can become a daywalker if he fully reverse exercises.
I need to reverse exercise.
Yeah, that's how you get fit and go into the sun.
He sits on a couch and starts like spitting blood on the ground and eating potato chips. He's like, this is a reverse exorcism.
It's perfect. Doctors hate him.
I made it.
They make it to Santiago, and this is another part where the music in the background is just, it doesn't really fit, but it just is like too good for like the scene. or I thought, and it's just people looking around the little Santiago town, which is a classic John Carpenter move. This is where I noted that Jack always checks the ceiling when he goes into a room by pointing the gun up. And then, time to kill some vampires. And this is where we get kind of a suit up thing, and they go into one of the buildings. And they figure out that it's the prison because it's the prison is where they're holed up because that's the most.
Yeah. This is where we get like
a fortress.
The hiked up James Woods jeans shot. He turns around and you see his caboose.
His whole
you see his hams. His moose in the front. His clip on shades. Yeah. This is like one thing. I was watching this movie and I was like, this is what Dale from The King of the Hill thinks he is. This is how Dale imagines himself,
Yes.
My new headcanon is that's why he's like this. King of the Hills actually takes place after this movie. He saw this movie and he found a message board online about conspiracy theories. So it's vampires.
James Woods memorabilia.
Yeah. Yeah. So
he keeps sand in his pocket because he saw James Woods sand in his pocket in this movie, but that didn't happen. It was a different movie.
Also,
but it also wasn't a James Woods movie. He just saw it in real life, and it was a guy who looked like James Woods.
But there's also like a weird, almost BDSM sort of moment where he takes the little thing out of the father's collar. The collar. What are they called? What's that thing called? A collar pad, and then he puts on
priest choker.
A priest choker.
Yeah, it's just called a collar. Yeah.
But then he puts on this like giant.
You said collar so many times, questioning it, that I was like, "Is that right?" It is. That's right. Yeah.
But then he puts on this like giant chainmail, like anti-vampire neck thing that I think they should have spent a little bit more time showing and talking about because that's awesome. Chainmail for your throat or for your neck.
Fun fact: it's called a fang buster.
Fang buster.
Yeah, they should have them on their thighs too.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's
the best part of. I mean, like I'm not a vampire, but
he couldn't tell. He was like, "Are you wearing a fang buster?" I don't know. I'm gonna go.
He's like, "I'm wearing two, one over here and one over here." Actually, I'm wearing three, one right here, just right on his crotch.
One over here and one over there.
Yeah, that's where the vampires really want to suck from, right, Father?
Stop talking to me.
Yeah, he's like, why are you so gay? And he's like, I'm not gay. You're gay.
You're gay.
All right, a kiss for good luck.
kiss on my penis for good luck.
Yeah.
So they suit up. They've got their party of three. I suspected John Carpenter might have been playing Japanese role-playing games at this point. Maybe not. Maybe just playing NBA 98. They go in and they're.
I didn't get what you were going at for a second there, but I do like the NBA 98. I get it now. Yeah.
I didn't get a laugh, so I knew that NBA 98 would move the needle. That's what gets the people going. Yeah. They go in and they immediately get attacked by vampires, and this vampire fight goes a little bit differently. They get the first one, pull them out, it's no problem. But the second one, they show that the masters have like more strength, I guess, because she grabs onto like a pole and it disconnects the wire. So as Montoya's trying to get it cinched back up, Jack is kind of just tussling with her. So like they're not that much stronger if he can just like wrestle one to the ground. He gets on top of her, they get it cinched again, it starts pulling, and I was like, Jack, get off of her. And I was like, why? Then I realized these things are exploding into real fire. It's not like mystical fire.
It's like a bomb. Yeah,
they're like
fucking bomb.
It's like hot enough to kill a man.
Which I thought was I had an amazing revelation at that moment. One of the few revelations I actually had in this movie, because they just spoon feed most of the movie to you. But I laughed out loud. I was
Jason's
like
num.
Num.
They blow up, don't they? Like gunpowder.
Feed it to me, Jan. Feed it to me.
I'm not a smart man. I just say what happens next. Right. So
it is good though, and it's not something you really see even in like Blade. They just kind of like fall into a pile of bones, and like they turn into ash, and they're kind of like flamey a little bit, but they don't
it's not even
blow
hot.
up.
Like no one's like, ooh, that's hot.
Yeah, this is like sulfur almost, like exploding, or like phosphorus or something. It's just like fireworks going on.
I have a thing from Tim in the chat. James Woods on John Carpenter. Absolutely love John Carpenter. He's like a cynical gunslinger with a film vocabulary all to his own. Maybe the most fun I've had on a movie. That tracks.
Yeah,
because they
he
were
didn't
like,
say film. Yeah,
do whatever you want, James Woods. He's like, okay.
He's like, I was in Videodrome. That's a film.
That's a film. Jack cooks up a plan to get the vampires sort of funneled into the elevator, and the father has to be the bait because Jack has to be the action hero and kill them, and Montoya is the only person that can drive the Jeep, I guess.
I had the question for you guys, which, like, I guess it's because everyone else is dead, but Montoya is the crank man twice in this movie.
That's his job.
He
doesn't go in the house.
He never goes. He never goes in the house. Not even one time.
Yeah, just a fucking coward. He's just like, he's like, that's my truck. That's my winch.
He's just outside cranking it.
Just cranking it.
Because they knew if they had to have him in an action sequence, it would just look so
it would
bad.
be bad. Yeah,
he would trip on his own.
Like, we need
sweat.
a stuntman who's really good at wearing a fat suit, I guess.
He's just so husky. He's just a husky boy.
Yeah, it's not even that he's fat. He's just kind of like
thick neck, thick.
He's just like a normal guy, you know. He's not an actiony man. He's just kind of like, I can do the voice, the Alec Baldwin voice, but I'll lie on top of somebody and I'll pretend to hit a lady, but that's all you're getting from me. Like, nothing.
So it
else.
would have been funny if, you know how in the Flintstones sequel, Stephen Baldwin played Barney Rubble?
Oh my god, thank you so much, because last night when I was watching this movie, I was like, is he fucking Barney Rubble?
well, if it'd be funny if Daniel Baldwin just played Fred Flintstone, and both the Baldwin boys just played young versions of the Flintstones.
I mean, I like to imagine that the Baldwins were in some sort of interdimensional accident and they're all the same guy. Like a crystal shattered and they all came out the same person.
And they fucking
a crystal, and they're like, we are the five.
They terminated portal.
Alex stands up first and he's like, I will go first, and then Beetlejuice comes out a year later. You're like, holy shit!
They all came
he's
out
Baldwin.
of his...
He's Baldwin Prime. Yeah.
They came out of a Stargate from a planet.
Send in
that's
the
all
other
Baldwins. Oh my god, that's good. That's good stuff, guys. Gotta say, the AI machine is gonna like this one. Alan goes down and sees vampires immediately. That was actually kind of a spooky shot. The like vampire in the distance in the dark, kind of like skulking. I liked that. That was very John Carpenter. John Carpenter from Mars, which is a new movie onward. Oh, but goodbye.
We're all here. Don't you worry about it. We're just vacuuming ourselves.
He goes down the elevator, and when he was told explicitly not to leave the elevator, just bait them in, and he just walks out. So maybe the vampires have some sort of vampire telekinesis ability to like draw.
Maybe, but it also seems like he was getting a little too like big for his britches.
He's just brazen.
He's like, I can get more of them if I walk out into the hallway. More of them will see me.
Okay.
And you know what? It works. So.
Well,
there's a weird romantic moment before that where like it seems like he's trying to tell him not to go, and he's like, I'm gonna go, and he's like, okay, go. And then like there's a second moment where he's like, father, and he's like, I know. And I'm like, there's like a weird like they're about to kiss moment again where I'm like, these guys are gonna kiss. Why don't they just kiss? Fucking kiss.
This movie, maybe one day it'll be looked back at like Freddy Krueger Part 2, where it's actually a very super gay movie about coming to terms with homosexuality as a, in a world of, nope, doesn't really work like that anymore, because people.
Also, Freddy Krueger 2 did have at least a couple of female characters that had some sort of agency. This movie just had a stuffed dummy that was getting beaten around like a sack of meat.
Yeah.
It's not queer friendly. It's not even gay friendly. It just has gay subterfuge, and
like, I just wish by the end of it was just the guy with the big hair, and he was just like, he bit me.
Yeah, what? Hey, I got you, guys. He's like rolls up on the 3-person tandem bike. He's rolling it on his own.
He's on his own.
He's like sweating. He's like, it's so hard to do this by yourself.
You guys just left it in the ditch.
He's smoking 2 cigarettes at the same time.
Yeah, I also forgot to mention when they had that moment where James Woods almost gets blown up. He is on top of the vampire, shooting her in the face at point blank range, which I thought was just so funny, an action movie moment coded, that it was like unnecessary, but like it was there for,
I don't know if it's coded, it's just an action movie moment. Yeah. It's just happening, and you're like, I get why he's doing this because he's full of adrenaline, but there's no point to it, right? Like, get off, roll off, just roll off.
And even the priest, they're like, guns don't work. Here's a gun. Yeah. Get in there.
Guns work.
So guns don't work, but did you bring your gun with you? Well, you said it didn't work. Yeah, but you still have to bring it.
Yeah, you still got to shoot at them. Yeah. Duh. Guns.
We have to balance our bullet budget, or the Vatican won't give us more bullets.
Oh, the Vatican's on the phone again. They're saying only use guns.
The Vatican's on the phone again.
Hello, this is Dracula from the Vatican. How many more neck brace guards do you need? Bite busters, what do you call them? Well, we only have money for bullets this year. I'm sorry. We need to shoot like 10,000 bullets.
We have to replace your priest's joker.
With a real
we send
neck.
14 a year. You could probably stack those into one bite buster, I think. But
it descends into night at this moment, and then they say another rule. They're like, Rule 8: you can't fight a master at night. And Jack's like, I'm gonna fight that master at night. So
this is their Matrix. Nobody fights an agent moment. But he's like, look at me, I'm James Woods. I'm so beefy, I can do this.
Yeah. And because this movie likes to leave nothing to the imagination, Valek just shows up right then and attacks Jack. And Montoya and Katrina bounce. They just are already in the fucking Jeep, and they leave.
Coincidentally, they get exactly as far away that time as they did the other time. Just 6 minutes down the road, and they're done.
James Woods is in the bush again. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, Father Allen is also hiding during this. His adrenaline must be going crazy. Katrina turns full vampire during this. So during these sequences,
she's pronounced tortilla.
Tortilla. She's tied up. Katrina I understand the joke now.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry I didn't laugh so hard. But it's very funny, Steve. I apologize. That's good. Hurricane. Okay.
Hurricane funny.
Hurricane hilarious. The thing that I liked about this hated about this last little bit is Katrina's tied up like this in the truck, just writhing, like just turning
into a bag of tortillas falls down, and she goes like, more like Hurricane Tortilla. There you go.
There we go. Thank you.
Brought it back.
Thank y'all. Katrina goes full vampire and bites Montoya on the neck, and it's pretty gruesome. It's a pretty gruesome bite. The gore for it looked cool, and she bites a whole chunk of his fucking pastrami ass skin off.
But Montoya loves it. He's like, yeah, bite me more.
I wrote, he loves it though.
He loves it. He loves it, and he loves it for no reason. Like, it didn't make sense to me as a choice. Like, I was like, one, he's already turning into a vampire, so is his blood still good? I guess so. And then two, he's just like, yeah, sick.
He likes
and in no lore that I know of, the vampires just like eat each other's faces and shit. Like, they just, if anything, it like hurts them if they feed off other undead, right? Like, it's bad for them.
It's bad for them. I think he likes getting hurt and likes hurting people. Because
in the next very moment he shoots a Uzi in the air so much that the barrel gets hot, and he presses that to his neck, and he doesn't scream or yell. He just goes, ah. It's soothing for him.
So weird.
And I looked at the time at this point, how much movie was left, and I was like, how are they gonna fucking wrap this up?
There's like 6 minutes left.
Yeah, he just does another one right next to it. He's like, no, it looks like I got bit by a vampire on my neck instead of my arm. The arm is lame, but the neck is cool.
Wait, what if this is his plan the whole time? What if this is the headcanon that he's like, I got 16 minutes until I'm a full vampire, but I gotta convince these guys that I got 2 days.
It's baffling. The script.
She's got burn bite, brother.
He's like, he's
oh no! Oh no!
Eating the tortilla chips. He's like, this will slow it down.
You froze for a second.
Oh, did I freeze?
I heard tortilla chips, and I like it.
That's it. Yeah, you got it.
I think I have a theory.
What's the theory? I wonder what it could be.
I think that a primitive AI wrote this movie and not John Carpenter.
Is it John Carpenter? He's a primitive AI.
It was powered on cassette tapes, but it still got the job done. Yeah.
Have you heard the music that John Carpenter make? It sounds like a primitive AI wrote that music too. It's just like, what if I hit these 4 keys over and over again and then have an organ come into the background? That's cool, right? And you know what? He's right.
He's right. Cool. He basically
John Carpenter music rules. I love it.
He wrote the kind of music that people would go and turn into new retro wave, which is just you speed it up a bit. You just speed it up a bit and make it sound like you're in an anime driving.
Except people will listen to John Carpenter music and call it new retro wave, but it's just John Carpenter.
It's just retro wave.
No, it's just his music.
Right. But if you listen, if you listen to Overdrive by Laserhawk, for instance, which is a song I know, that is very much just a John Carpenter song sped up a little bit.
But it's crazy because he releases albums every few years, right? He has the lost chapters of John Carpenter or whatever, and he just releases these theme songs for all of his movies that are just themes that he was playing around with at the time, and he just chose something else, right? So he has an alternative Halloween theme, he has an alternative The Fog theme, and it's
the
crazy
because it's just an alternative Halloween theme. Remember,
exactly. But then he has an alternative to both of those that no one's ever heard, and it's on this album, and he performs them live, and people are like, it's new retro wave, and it's no, it's just John Carpenter's back, baby, from the dead. He pulled himself out of the crypt. He brushed off the Cheeto dust, and his hair's sticking out. He's like, I beat all of the basketball video games that ever existed.
I got Slippy off of that planet.
I finally got Slippy off of Planet Z.
I started at NBA 1. So Jack is tied up, and all the vampires are congregating. The Cardinal's there, and he's What the fuck was that? Do you have a dog in the room?
I have a dog in the room, yeah. I do, yeah.
I was laughing at thinking about John Carpenter seeing Andros for the first time, the floating head of Andros on Venom, being like, oh, being like, holy fuck, Slippy, where are you?
Do a barrel roll.
John Carpenter bursts out of the van and he's like, there's a second whole path to the game.
Did you know that Andros can turn into a robot head and a brain? Everyone's like, yes, man. The game came out in 1997.
Yeah. So the Cardinal
still has Jolt Cola cans in there.
The Cardinal. No, it's okay. I was waiting for you to be done. The Cardinal has basically a monologue about how his whole life he was a cardinal and a father and a priest, but he never saw.
The biggest twist that we all saw coming because he sounds like Dracula.
He's like, I was born a cardinal. There's a real glass ceiling for priests in the church, if you know what I mean.
You know, if you are not a male who is white who sounds like Dracula, you can't go anywhere in the church.
Except
you have all those things. And it's true, but I would like to be a vampire, maybe.
Well, if he waited a couple more years, he could have been, he could have applied to be Pope.
Yeah.
Or elected.
Well, that was probably his plan, right? Was become vampire and then become vampire Pope.
Vampire Pope. Van Poper.
The world.
Yeah, the Van Popery has all the power.
Yeah. But that's sort of the vibe I got. It was like he was going to get turned into a vampire. He was going to have the highest station as a priest or cardinal or pope. And then since Valek would be a daywalker, he'd be able to just take over the world. And then I started thinking about conspiracy theories and what if the powers that be on Earth now are vampires and they have all the power? But really,
you're do you think that Valek was on Epstein's island? Do you think he's on the list?
The Cardinal definitely was.
I think he was, yeah.
Really surprised me when I found out that
Valek
was on the list.
And he flew on the same private plane as Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
Imagine that conversation.
They went there together.
Hello, what is your name?
I'm Valek.
My name is Valek.
The ultimate master vampire.
The master of daywalker.
Great job. Let's get some lap dances. Okay.
Right, I don't like it.
I almost said something horrible. Anyway, he wants to help the vampire and become a vampire, and Jack goes, you truly are a pile of dog shit, Cardinal. And Cardinal's like, well, yes, I am, Jack, but there's nothing you can do about it.
But it's like a weird comedy angle, right? Like the first comedy angle in the whole movie, really, like where they shoot it low and like it's almost like a Bruce Campbell bit from like a Sam Raimi movie where you're like, what the fuck am I watching all of a sudden? It's turning into a slapsticky comedy.
The Cardinal gets that nice like low shot right to his chin where he's like, let me monologue at you about how hard my life has been and how I'm going to finally get eternal life. Not that bullshit eternal life that I've been peddling to poor people, but the real good stuff.
The good one where I don't die and you do, and I have to suck all your blood out. It's going to be great.
Lys Soldish in the chat, first time chat person, I think they tried to Google in the chat by saying SoundCloud Star Wars soundtrack, and then said, dude on the top left looks stoned out of his mind, not gonna lie. So I think that's you.
It could be.
Damn, man, I'm sober.
Well, you've been having a couple cervezas.
Yeah, that's true. I'm working on one beer. That's true.
Yeah, you're having a Thursday night Sapporo, and man, this or woman, who knows? This is a person who's never been in the chat.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my eyes real open.
Get them real open. We're not stoned.
Now you seem like you're on a different type of drug.
The same stuff that old Jamesy Woods was on during this nightmare. Thanks for coming to the chat, hangout, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Unless it's about how stoned we all are. You know what? Ask that too. Fucking pole smoking fashion victim is what.
Yeah.
What he calls Valek. Jack is trying to do that thing where he goads the bad guy into like letting him go by just calling.
But he's trying to do the Jack Burton thing where the trade-off for Jack Burton is that he has really good disses, right? Like he can hit you right in your solar plexus, right in the throat, right in the nose, right on the chin. But then he falls on his butt and does something embarrassing, right? Like James Woods is not doing that throughout the movie. He's not falling on his butt and doing embarrassing things. And like the only thing that Jack Burton does at the end of Big Trouble in Little China is he talks the whole time about how good he is at throwing a knife, and he throws the knife directly. He rolls a natural 20 and throws it right into the head of Lo Pan, right? Like between the eyes, kills essentially a god. And it's like, see, I told you I'm good. But the rest of the movie, he's just shitting the bed. He shoots in the air and a rock falls on his head and knocks him out for a whole fight. That's the beauty of that movie. Whereas this movie is they're trying to eat the cake and still have it, kind of thing. Where it's like you can't do that. It doesn't work, and it's not fun. It makes us as the audience be like, yeah, I don't like this guy. He seems like he thinks he's better than us.
It's just James Woods saying homophobic slurs.
Yeah, he says so many homophobic things in this movie that it made me feel bad.
He's like, what are you, a small penis to fat debutante? Like, why don't you come at me and let me go out of this crucifix?
I bet you like sucking men's buttholes. You're like, stop saying that, James.
It's such a weird thing.
I'll never stop.
They're all ad libs.
Yeah. No one reacts to them as well. Like literally no one reacts.
He comes on set, he's got his reading glasses on, and he's like, so I wrote a couple more. And everyone's like, stop, James, stop. You really have to stop using the F slur, James. We've cut it out. We're unrated at this point. You have to stop. You have to read the script.
Why did we ever find out why James Woods got canceled in the 90s, early 2000s? Is it what he was saying? Oh, Jesus. Do you want to move on from it? Can you make heads or tails what I sold?
He called Stephen Hawking a pole smoking fashion victim, I think.
This person in the chat knows you, Boba.
That's me.
I think they're a fan of your SoundCloud stories. You got a Star Wars story on there?
Yeah, I did a Star Wars recording for Scott.
Oh,
actually.
Cool.
Yeah. I was for Scott's game, and
what a strange double cut. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Interesting. This person knows you guys for sure. It's got to be that way.
It's about a clone who saved or almost saved a Jedi and then took their lightsaber and then went to a planet and then had an adventure.
That's fun.
He stole their lightsaber because he was greedy.
No, it's because it was during Execute Order 66.
Execute Order 69, says Jack.
Yeah, that's what he would say, Jack Crow.
Also, why doesn't Valek...
George, do you think it should be execute 66 or 69? George is like, oh, I think that's a sex number.
Yeah,
no, it's not.
Call
George.
the music jizz.
Yeah.
Why doesn't...
You got a whale. You got a whale on it.
Yeah. So here's your jizz whaler, and here's your jizz flute, and here's your jizz drum. Jizz drum.
Oh, Isoldish played Sea of Thieves with you. It's all making sense to me now.
Oh, Bilbo. Yeah, that's me.
That's hilarious.
On the Seven Seas.
On the Seven Seas. I've been on that too. You might have talked to me too. Maybe not. Why doesn't Valek have a European accent really? Like for the most part, doesn't. Does this actor just not know how to go?
Because he's from South America.
Oh, I thought he was from... Oh, I misinterpreted.
No, accents go away, man. My mom grew up in Scotland, and she does not walk around sounding like a fucking dwarf from Lord of the Rings. Like, she just sounds like a normal person.
Okay. Yeah.
When she gets drunk, she sounds like a dwarf from Lord of the Rings, for sure.
When she gets drunk, she just sounds like a newfie, probably.
Or when she's mad, she's just like, you see?
Have you seen that thing where, like, again, accents do change over time? So, like, the true European accent is actually like the Appalachians, like North Carolina accent.
Right. Yes.
But like those people just like moved up into the mountains and like never interacted with anyone again, so their voices didn't change.
Oh, interesting.
And now all the skinwalkers are imitating them.
So Katrina shows back up. She's covered in blood. This is where we get a shot of Montoya cauterizing a neck bite with a machine gun. And I wrote pretty badass, but dumb as fuck. They need Jack for his blood because somehow he's got the blood of a crusader because he's like the leader hero guy.
Because they have to have magic versus magic at the end, and it's like, bleh.
And they need to be crucifying a man with the blood of a crusader at first light. So Valek.
I'm surprised he didn't have Jesus blood inside him or something. You know?
Yeah, or Van Helsing.
Yeah, that would have been better.
That would have actually been like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So luckily, Alan finds a shotgun, and they cut some titty blood out of Jack, which I thought was they cut him like here. I thought that was just I thought titty blood would be funnier. And he feeds it.
That's where they stab Jesus with his spear of destiny, man.
Right.
Don't you know anything about Jesus?
Not very much. I thought it was his, like here, like his rib. Maybe that's...
To be honest, it looks like the exact same thing you did before.
Okay.
I don't know.
Feeds it to the vampire under the nip. Father Allen blasts the cardinal with the shotgun, so now the plan is ruined. And then Allen turns the gun on himself, and he's like, Valek, if you continue with this... I'm gonna kill myself.
Blow my brains out.
I'll blow my own brains out, and it's like, now you will be the father who creates this reverse exorcism. And he's like, oh no. And then there's another dumb thing where Valek takes the fire and puts it up to James Woods, and James Woods like, my nuts are on fire here. And it's like, what?
Anybody got a light?
You gotta rescue me, my fucking dick.
Holy moly!
Holy moly! I won't be able to bang
Holy
dudes
Moses!
anymore.
Everyone's like Moses.
They're like anymore. So yeah, basically Montoya shows up and harpoons the cross and gets Jack out of there, which I thought was like, how did the same harpoon that could like only really pull one person pull down this whole fucking crucifix? Anyway, it was stupid.
Well, it's because James
Woods. That whole scene is laugh out loud hilarious. Like the body tied to the cross, and it is like, it's fucking going. Like it flies off the roof. It hits the ground. It's like tumbling.
Yeah. And you're James like, Woods he would die. Yeah.
Yeah, he would fall face down and fucking get his head crushed. So then we get another situation where it just goes right to the next thing, and they have a final showdown inside like a little building, where the cross gets comically stuck in Valek's chest, and he's like waving it around. But even though he's got a cross stuck into his chest, fucking Jack still wails on him with a wooden board, which I thought was just a funny image to see a guy with a thing coming out of his stomach.
This is when I was like really struggling to keep paying attention. I was like, my brain, I have to keep watching this movie.
Well, luckily for you, he just pulls the roof down and the sun gets in and the movie's over.
Thank God. I didn't miss much.
No, but
I kept doing one of these like
the long
TikTok.
drawn the long drawn out conversation with fucking Montoya and Jack Glass at the end is way longer than the Valek fight, like the main villain versus hero fight.
And it's undeserved. Like there's not really a moment in this movie where you truly believe that they are friends. Like we don't get that. I mean, you get bits and pieces, but you don't get enough to truly believe
there was one line I liked where he goes, "Is there something you want to tell me?" And he goes, nothing that you want to know, which felt kind of like a shorthand.
That's a knowing statement. Yeah, but like we don't have enough to know about them to have that knowing statement mean much at that point. And I don't know, this is just me personally saying that they should have probably invested more in the two of them than fucking Baldwin beating up a girl the whole time.
It's like even worse though, because he's like, we're going south. We haven't heard, Katrina hasn't said words in like 45 minutes. And he's like, he's kissed her. He's like, all this weird shit with her.
They're biting chunks off each other's faces.
And he's like, we're going
she
south. She
doesn't get a line after that. Yeah.
And it's like, is she okay with this? Like, does she want to go south with you?
He's like, we're going south. And then over his shoulder, she's already like wearing a wedding dress. And it cuts back to him. And he's wearing and he's wearing a tuxedo. And he's like, it's good knowing you, Jack. He puts a fucking top hat on. Flips it out, puts it on.
You were going to be the best man.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we know it. You're not welcome south of the border, Jack. They call you the forbidden crow.
The forbidden crow. I thought you were going to say the pole smoker.
The pole smoker. The pole smoking fashion victim, aka the forbidden crow.
So basically, we get one more rule, and it's you don't let a vampire leave. And I was over it, and he lets him leave, and he's like, "You got 2 days, but then I'm coming looking for you." And it's like, just shoot him, just kill him. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, we already went over this a couple times, but like, there could have been 10 different versions of this ending that would have been better than them just walking off. Like, I guess they wanted to set up the sequel premise, but John Carpenter doesn't make sequels very often. He's got one
real
Escape from LA, and that movie kind of fucking sucks ass too. Yeah,
he probably didn't want to do it, and kind of.
I don't know if he didn't want to do it. I think that he just got too much money and didn't know what to do with it. So it started being we can
fucking goes on a surfboard.
We can make like a submarine at the beginning, and the Jaws machine will be underwater, and
they still find time to squeeze in one more dick joke with the father and with Jack as they walk away. He's like, "How's your penis now?" And the priest is like, "My penis is hard."
It's hard as fuck.
Well, it's the priest asking if Jack has mahogany or ebony, and he's like, "Stop it, priest! Language."
I mean, I think that in my headcanon, they go and hunt vampires together, and they probably have sex like a whole bunch, the two of them. And I'm kind of okay with that. I just wish it was in the movie, I don't need to see them having sex,
but like I wish it was in the movie.
But like I would like them to like acknowledge the fact that they are attracted to each other, because they clearly are, and they weirdly care about each other.
So yeah,
they are more believable and have more chemistry than him and his best friend that he lets walk into the fucking sunset. And like the priest is about to shoot him, right? And it's like, you got 2 days, and he says Padre, and then Padre says you got 2 days, right? And it's like, Padre could have shot him. The woman who's being fucking tortured the entire movie could have shot him. He could have shot himself. James Woods could have shot him. Fucking Valeric could have showed up and
shot him.
Like turned his head around, and then he gets burned alive in the sun. Like anything. The sun could have killed him. There's so many things.
Well, they didn't do that thing that happens in horror movies or superhero movies where the villain does like one more Super Shredder's hand.
They did. They did in the sense that they let him go.
Oh yeah, but what I mean is like instead of that, they did the definitive villain dying, where he doesn't just burn up, he fucking explodes and a hand goes flying. Did you notice that?
Yeah. I love the hand. I was like, oh shit.
There's a few movies where an explosion happens and the magic in the explosion is so perfect that you just see the dummy hand like come close to the camera, and you're like, sick, there's the hand. And I can think of one other movie where this happens, and it's the Mortal Kombat, the Paul W.S. Anderson movie, the director that you were on for last, Scott. of the director of Event Horizon. He has an explosion of scorpion in that movie where he blows up and just a perfect hand flies right at the camera. And I remember seeing that as a kid being like, whoa, that's a hand.
That's a hand.
And like now as an adult, I'm like, there's that hand that I noticed when I was 6. I'll never not notice that hand.
What's your brief history with the hand from Scorpion's exploded corpse?
Yeah, and Jason's like, I remember the butt, and then I look in the corner, and it's like a scorpion butt.
scorpion's
Like,
butt.
you didn't notice the butt? I'm like, oh, I was focused on the hand. Yeah, I didn't even notice that butt.
I didn't even notice that butt. But yeah, that is the movie. We're in at time here. That is the movie. John Carpenter's Vampires. John Carpenter's Vampires.
What's it called?
John Carpenter's Vampires from Mars.
Oh,
Escape from John Carpenter's Vampires is what we did during this podcast. So this is all canon. It's all connected. Before we get out of here, we have a couple of little thingies we like to do. Did you guys have your Home Alone Home Alone? Here, let me just...
If you had to pick one,
But what do you think the Home
when
Alone of it
is
all?
the Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone of
I
it all
really gotta
happens?
know.
When is the Home Alone of it all?
What is the Home Alone of it all?
Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
Essentially, if you don't know, the Home Alone of it all is just basically the draw of the movie and the movie Home Alone. I posit that the Home Alone of that movie is when Kevin McAllister slaps down the blueprint of his house with all the traps, and that's what we all came to see. These poor idiots get just buffooneried into oblivion by homemade traps. In this film, I would say that...
Scott, have you seen that movie?
Home Alone?
Yeah, the movie Home Alone with
I've
starring
seen
Macaulay
Home Alone.
Culkin and Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
I was in that film.
And Daniel Stern. And Catherine O'Hara.
Catherine O'Hara and John Candy.
And the dad who's in stuff whose name nobody knows.
I was the first pizza guy in that movie. The one who doesn't get scared.
I was the brave pizza man in Home Alone.
I was brave pizza man, yeah.
I was the milk vomit that came out of Buzz's mouth when Kevin ran into his stomach head first.
God. I was Buzz's girlfriend. The photo was me.
Woof. But I would say the Home Alone of it all. There's no real clear Home Alone of it all, except for when they're killing vampires, maybe.
Yeah, I would say the Home Alone of it all is like when they first shoot that vampire and drag his ass into the sun. I was like, holy shit, this is sick.
Yeah.
I think Home Alone... Oh, my bad.
I was gonna say my brain started going mad with like, I haven't seen this movie in years, and I don't remember if they do anything cooler than this. And the answer is they don't really do anything cooler than that. I mean, there are cool moments, but nothing as cool as harpooning a vampire through their chest like you're a fucking whale hunter, and then like a whale hunter reeling in a fish, but it's a vampire.
It's like the best vampire thing I've seen in the worst vampire movie.
It makes me want to do like a vampire hunting D&D where it's just humans versus vampires, like no special powers. You just have tools, and like you have all these tools at your disposal, but you cannot use magic. It's just like you can have vials of holy water and like garlic clove oil and shit that you can rub on your blades, but like that's it. No drow magic, no fucking druidic magic. You can't turn into a cat. You're just shooting vampires and dragging them in the goddamn sun. But
Luna Devonair says Hunter. Scott knows.
Yes,
I ran that game. I ran that
Hunter.
Game.
Yeah, Scott. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ramble, but
what for you?
Oh no, ramble away. Yeah, I think the Home Alone of it all is those 8 skulls on that truck.
yeah, that's a good
I think
too.
that you just see those 8 skulls and you're like, oh my god, what did they do?
Yeah,
nothing good.
It's kind of too like the things you remember about a movie that make you want to go back and watch it, and I think the vampire stuff in this is like the draw, you know.
There are some things though that you like wish, right? You wish there was more lore to it. You wish that like, you know, you hear about these other vampire hunting factions around the world. You meet the priest who joins them, but like, imagine they put the skull down and then it pans across all the skulls and all of them are missing their canines, right? And then like the last one is like he's pulling the fangs out and he just has like a jar full of vampire fangs, and it's like, what's he gonna do with those? And then your imagine. Yeah, or like your imagination just goes wild. Like, what are they going to do with those teeth? And like, you could do anything with it. And it's just like little things like that you want to add. But like, I guess they had enough because like they didn't want to spend the time doing it. But like, I don't know, man. There's like enough coolness, but there's so much room for more that they, I think, kind of wasted the potential. But you know, that's my opinion. I don't know.
That's a good.
I agree.
Imagine they grinding up the teeth and they're like, we got tooth dust, and you're like, what are we gonna do to the tooth? Yeah. They get like
Makes you
temporary
feel good.
Makes you want to hit a woman. Oh fuck! Again? Daniel, stop.
What do you say before we go into our final thoughts? Though we play the hit game show MPAA guessing game.
It's time to play Guess the MPAA.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jack Crow, the host of the hit.
Wow, that's a great Jack Crow impression.
The hit game show. Guess the MPAA. The rules are simple. Basically, at the end of every movie,
I forgot.
There's a 5-digit MPAA certificate number. We used to just say what it was, but I thought it'd be fun to play a little guessing game where I give you the first 2 numbers of the 5-digit number, and you just have to guess the other 3 numbers. The rules are simple. I'm going to give you each 2 guesses. You'll go back and forth. Scott, starting with you, of the 5-digit number, what are the 3 digits after the first 2 digits?
You got that?
You got
Can
that?
we just go over that a couple more times just so I really have it?
You're guessing a number between 1 and 999.
Yeah. And I'll tell you if it's higher or lower.
What are you gonna guess?
This is where you guess it.
I thought you were going to give me the first 2 numbers.
Oh, so, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's 3-5.
Well, I think it's 555.
Higher.
I think it's 556.
Higher.
861.
Lower.
6 7 fork. I mean 4. My brain said fork, not as
No, nobody's got it yet. I'm sorry that I'm still trying to figure out how to explain that. But essentially, that was the MPAA.
The MPAA, everyone. The MPAA.
What was the number?
It's
Wow.
35771.
Oh, we weren't that
No, you were pretty close.
far off. Yeah.
I was so close. My first guess was the closest guess.
Yeah. Well, that was that. It's fun to kill 2 minutes with the weird thing that it's stupid. Let's go to our final thoughts.
It's time for our final thoughts.
Just like at the beginning of the show, the guest is chosen to go first. So, Scott, that of course is short for Scotland. Please tell us your final thoughts. And if you have a rating that you would like to give, whether it be funny or literally out of 5 or out of 10, hit us with that as well.
All right. So I think final thoughts of this movie. 1, I think that the poster of this film, which I've been looking at now over your shoulder for this entire time, is the most Lord of the Rings poster I've ever seen from a non-Lord of the Rings film.
Yeah.
That's just a merry band going to throw that one ring in the
But
fire.
like Lord of the Rings, if it wasn't the epic movie that we know it, like if they made it in 1992 or something, you know, like this is the Lord of the Rings.
Like in Russia. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's not much to say about this film. I guess when you're a kid, a lot of homophobia can go right over your head.
Yep.
While you're eating chicken. I give this 2 fangs down.
Into a thigh or a neck?
Into a thigh.
A chicken thigh.
Into a chicken thigh.
Oh, God. I never used the sound effect, but that was fucking made me laugh. Thank you, Scott. We appreciate you here, and that was a great, concise final thought. Whoa, The Undertaker. Steve, please give us your final thoughts for the film John Carpenter's Vampires from Mars.
So Jack Burton is a really, really interesting and cool and funny character who is probably on the forefront of John Carpenter's mind every single time that he's writing a project. And the shame about this movie is that Jack Burton should have been the main character, but there was no place for him here. They needed somebody to be perfect, and Jack Burton can't be perfect. Or they just didn't want Jack Burton. The studio didn't want Jack Burton, but I know who wanted to be Jack Burton was Kurt Russell, and I know that John Carpenter will put Jack Burton into anything they can make. I even put Jack Burton into things that aren't even real. Like there's a movie that came out maybe about 5, 6 years ago starring Kurt Russell where he's Santa Claus, and I just imagine that Jack Burton ran over Tim Allen in his truck and it was like, oh, and he had to dress up like Santa Claus, and that's just Jack Burton as Santa Claus. I say all that because I think that this movie could have been way more fun and interesting than it was. And I do think that James Woods ultimately he's kind of just doing a job. He doesn't feel like he's servicing the movie in any way and he's not making it better. He's just there. I would have liked more lore. I would have liked a lot more lore, to be honest. More interesting vampire stuff. The stuff that they show me, I'm so intrigued by. And then it just gets slogged down by all of this careless, bad writing and uncomfortable stuff that I really don't want to see. It's not fun. It's uncomfortable. The homophobia, unfortunately, for me, did not go over my head because I was like, "Ooh, this is making me feel sad." So I'm gonna give this movie a bunch of skulls on a hood, but they got no fangs, baby. They got no fangs.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. So basically, I write my final thoughts right after I watch the movie, so I read them as is. My opinion usually has changed a little bit, but I didn't hate it. It just has a lot of groan out loud moments. For a movie that explains vampires in a realistic way, there sure is a lot of unbelievable shit. Like the cross being pulled off the Jeep to save Jack. I did like that the myths are dispelled. Like the whole, like, the reason why, you know, people don't know about them is because they don't want to know about them. There's an inkling of something interesting there.
Oh, garlic is a anticoagulant.
Yeah. I also liked the method they used to kill goons. But it is kind of repetitive, like all said and done. They just do that over and over for the first like act of the movie. But it is a new, interesting way to do it. It's a decent looking movie cinematography wise, I thought. And some of the music has no business being that good because I don't know. I've got a soft spot for the ridiculous fucking biker saloon music that plays over just them like looking at each other.
Yeah.
The problem is James Woods' character is in the wrong movie. He almost feels like a Ghostbuster in a lot of ways. I think this movie was meant for Dennis Leary, and I'm always gonna believe that. And if not Dennis Leary, and part of that is because Dennis Leary was like on the rise. He was starting to be in stuff.
No, I believe that if it was him, it probably would have had a little bit more legs, maybe.
Would have had a bit more edge to it. Like James Woods is just not that guy, man.
He's Dale from King of the Hill.
Yeah. James Woods is not an action star. He should be in a suit. 2.7 out of 5. It's overall a pretty fun movie and would have been enhanced watching this with a group of friends. So I give this movie, watch it with a group of friends and 2 fangs down.
And don't forget to bring your vacuum manual.
Yeah, and also, yeah, all of that stuff. All the better jokes that you guys made. And I think that's it for the show this week. Before we get out of here, I'm going to ask you, Scott, to ask a question. After that, I'm going to play a little love letter to John Carpenter. But before we get to that, Scott, do you have a question for us?
Oh, yeah. So when you guys are picking these movies, is it like alphabetical?
It's not the fucking question. God damn it. You think you're real slick, don't you, Jack?
Jack Crow over here.
So it's not them.
No, it's the name of the show.
Have you seen this one?
You have to keep in mind that being a director doesn't mean that you're making what you want to make. More often than not, as a director, you're an employee working for the producer, and you're doing what they want in your style as they see fit. I think over time, he became cynical because he was being forced to make bigger movies with a larger budget, but not a budget large enough to make the movie that people wanted him to make, because he did so well with lower budgets, with like Escape from New York. I think if you want a John Carpenter film to be successful, give him the minimal amount of money that he needs to tell the story that he wants, that he's happy with, and give it a wider release. The people are there to pay for it, and they will go watch it. Like, there are so many fans of his early stuff. It's as his budgets expanded, as the expectations grew to be blockbusters, to be crazy action films. He's not an action director. He's a drama, he's a horror director. So when you're expecting multi-million-dollar box office results from somebody who's not specialized in doing what you're expecting them to draw, what do you think is going to happen? Just let him do what he's good at, give it a wider release. In the end, it's going to be cheaper, and you're going to see a bigger profit off of it.
I think that he also sort of became disillusioned by the fact that, you know, he's very creative. He has a good understanding of how to like put a person on screen, and is responsible for several people becoming really famous in their careers. But he also was met with people having been so impacted by his own movies that people started making John Carpenter movies that were better than John Carpenter movies that he could make. And like he would see movies that reminded him so much of his own movies that he was like, I think that there is a younger generation now that are making the same things that I would like to make, but they're making it better.
One of those people.
He's watching his craft be perfected by people that were inspired by him, which, you know, probably
you
feels
happy about that, and he can like sit back.
Well, I was gonna say it's probably like a double-edged sword, where he's probably happy about the fact that he's influenced people to make something that he would love to make, but seeing them make it better than him is like, well, I'm not needed here anymore. Like, my job is done. Like, I've seen what I would want to make and how I'd want to make it being made better than maybe I could have made it.
That's an amazing point I never considered.
And it's kind of sad, but at the same time, it's like kind of nice, you know? Like, it means that, you know, he has like a nice lush career, and he made what, like 19, 20 movies, something like that. And each and every one of them has clearly inspired somebody, because you can almost pinpoint a singular moment in any one of his movies that has been either homaged or completely ripped off or like redone in a loving way. And like, that's pretty fucking cool.
James Woods and the cowboy, the Padre.
You guys want to know a disturbing truth? Homaged is not a word.
Is that the whole?
I made that word up because I thought it was real when I said it, but it's not real, brother.